session, being 3 o'clock, April 5th, year of our Lord 2022. I call this meeting to order. The invocation will be given to today by Council Member Mayor Willis. Everybody please rise.
Please join me in prayer. Father God, we just come thanking you for this beautiful day, Lord Jesus. We come thanking you, oh God, for your grace. We thank you for your mercy, oh God, that encompasses us each and every day. Father, I ask that you will be with this council, Lord. I pray, oh God, that as we listen to the agenda, that we will listen with open minds, open hearts, and know, oh God, that it is not about us, but it is about the citizens of this great city and the opportunity that you've given us to serve them. Heavenly Father, we thank you, we praise you, we give you glory for every good and every perfect gift. We pray that you will bless those in the audience, Lord, and we just give you the glory and the thanks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody can be seated. We're having a little issue with the audio. We're having a little issues with the audio. Can everybody in the audience
Maybe you don't answer.
You can hear as well? You may have to speak up.
They didn't even show up.
Now, that means that we are not mad and we're not shouting at you. We're going to go on to item 1, MCH ARPA funding update. Today here with us will be CEO of MCH, Mr. Russell Tippett. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Russell Tippett. I'm the President and CEO of Medical Center Health System. Good afternoon. Thanks for your time this afternoon. I've been visiting with Mike, of course, through our whole process, and it's been a while since I've been here just to give everybody an update of how our process is going on the reimbursement side of the ARPA money that the city and the council and the mayor are so forward-thinking and working with us on that. I want to let you know just a few updates. Number one, as far as COVID is concerned in medical center, you might have seen the news update. We've been hanging around zero for a little over a week now. So 0, 1, go home, maybe 2, go home. But definitely smooth to nothing. So that's great news. We like that. We are keeping a close eye on EB2, which is the new variant that is out there. It is alive and well. It is 42% of all the cases in the United States today. So we are really keeping a close eye on that. I will tell you, people are getting sick from that, but they're not staying sick quite as long. So it seems to be moving a little faster. But it is making its way south, and sooner or later it'll be knocking on our doors, and we're ready to move forward and again provide exceptional health care to those sick folks. I want to just update you on the reimbursement process. We've been working with TDM, which is the Texas Department of Emergency Management, which also holds hands with FEMA. Y'all know FEMA is the group that we are submitting our information to refund the $3 million back to us, and we will return refund to the city. The good news, our FEMA application has been accepted. And you ask me, how do I know that? It's because they're requesting more information every day, which is good news. So that means we're not in somebody's inbox or on somebody's desk folder. We are actually in the process, and that seems to be moving quite well. We have worked with TDM from day one, as we told you all we would do, and we are very confident that our reimbursement scenario stays the same, which is good. Now the bad news, I want to bring you a check. I don't have it. But the good news is that our application is in the process, and as long as they're asking questions, we know we're in the process, and we get multiple requests every day for that. Our first request to FEMA, just so you know, was for almost $5 million. So the $3 million that y'all were able to send over has been fantastic to us. I can tell you that Medical Center Hospital has realized upwards of $37 million of unreimbursed expense due to COVID. So think about that for a minute. I mean, let that sink in, what we're dealing with over there. And that comes in the way of ventilators, air conditioning upgrades. Mostly, 99% of it is staffing and or the lack thereof. It's a good day to be a nurse, I can promise you that. Nurses that were making $40 and $50 an hour are now $280, $300, an hour. So if anybody's looking for a career or a career change, nursing would be the way to go, because the money's in the nursing. We are seeing that start to ease a little bit as the number comes down nationwide. But again, we always are looking towards the future, trying to forecast out what we're looking for. But I will tell you that as far as the reimbursement process is concerned, everything looks great. We are highly confident in the recovery of that, plus some, and we're already working on our next reimbursement request from FEMA, because that number keeps growing larger and larger by the day. So that's really the gist of my story. I just think it's good medicine for me to come in here and update this group from time to time, just to let you know where we are. Mike and I talk quite frequently about it. I know every time he sees my name, he's like, oh, Russell wants to bring me a check over, and that will happen.
That's why he keeps answering the phone, huh?
He answers right away, suddenly he answers right away. But seriously, I just want to tell you, thank you again. Your support has not gone unnoticed by our facility and by the people that we serve, Edgar County, Odessa. And I'd be happy to answer questions if y'all have any.
Council, any questions?
Has the county and the hospital in conversation yet about getting help from them?
No, sir.
You're not in conversation?
No, sir. There's been no conversation since our last request, September.
I just want to say thank you for the update. It's good for the people of Odessa and Nectar County to understand that this whole thing that you brought to us and we've done and funded, that we haven't unwisely spent their money.
Yeah.
And that it is coming back to us. So that's the message here.
Well,
And we'll be able to use it again, so, for something else.
Well, Councilman Thompson, you're right. Basically, what this council's done is turn one tax dollar into two. You doubled your money. And that's a pretty big story to tell.
It is.
Agreed.
I'd just like to thank you, as always, and thank your staff and your employees. You know, I know the nurses are probably making quite a bit now, but boy, golly, they've gone through quite a bit too.
Well, I tell you what, if they knew they were going to take such a whooping, I don't know if they would have taken the money. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's been, they're troopers. Those bedside caregivers, those front patient-facing people are real heroes in my book.
Absolutely.
I'll pass that on.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Yes, sir. On a personal note, Mr. Tippin, I want to thank you. You stopped in and checked on my father. And you know the situation going on with my family, and you know where my dad is. Basically his heart is deteriorating. So the care from the staff was incredible, and also have an aunt there, and she was your last COVID patient as of late. She has complete renal failure, and so I got to work on Saturday. So I've been spending a lot of time there at the hospital, and let me tell you, I talked to the staff and everything, just incredible individuals, the dedication that they have put in. I just want to personally thank you and your staff for the personal care they've done, given for my family. And we have complete confidence in moving forward with our relationship. And this council reflected that in the cooperation with the money. And we know that you're going to make it go a long way. And so I just wanted to give you hats off, and also kudos for both the city and the city staff and your staff for working in hand, our first responders, and we'll just continue this special relationship to make sure that our health care is in good hands in this community.
You bet, Mayor. I tell my crew all the time, our job is to be the light in somebody's darkness. And if we can be that light, then we're doing our job.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 2, downtown Odessa board update. Will be the board president, Mr. Sean Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, Harold, council. Well, that kind of touched on a little bit there. Of course, I lost my 31-year-old brother to COVID June 29th of 2020, and just hearing the work that they've done and everything that they've gone through. It's been a tough road for them, and it's good to see that we're seeing some positive results from everything. And it's a big deal. And I appreciate the work that all these hospitals and doctors and nurses have done as well. But love you, Patrick, rest in peace. Of course, January 3rd, we introduced a new executive director in downtown Odessa, which her name is Casey Hallmark. I'd like to introduce her. If you could come up here and introduce yourself.
Hi, I think I've met all of you, but I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we just wanted to introduce, we weren't sure if everybody's met her or knows what she. I am certainly proud of John and the city manager, Michael Marrero's choice in this position. I was absolutely floored by how quickly she's picked up and taken over the reins here with downtown Odessa and everything that she's done. Best thing is that she's homegrown. This is her hometown, and I'd like to applaud Michael Marrero and John Herridge for their work in this on finding the correct candidate for this position. And she's done a great job for us so
Thank you
far,
very
so
much.
I'm impressed with it. I'm impressed.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, let's get on with this, okay. Downtown Odessa, we released a updated master plan in February. We had a public release party in conjunction with the TERS board and city. We saw around 75 attendees. We also held our state of downtown where we had over 250 attendees. Downtown Odessa has worked with the city to get started on projects listed as critical need in the master plan. One of those, of course, is in parking. Starting this week, the city will be updated parallel street parking 4th and 5th from Texas to Lee. There'll be diagonal parking spaces. It'll increase parking by at least roughly 30 spaces for downtown. So just simple changes like that are increasing the amount of parking spaces that we have for downtown. So that helps a lot. We still have some issues with it, but they're definitely working on all those things. Also, another project that we've updated are both parking lots on 4th and Grant that work should start very soon. Also, the plans have been approved for the parking lot at 4th and Jackson. Downtown Odessa is excited to work in conjunction with the city in sending out RFPs for the city-owned lots downtown. Those will go out this week and be open until May 11th. Those sites include sale of properties on 500 North Grant, 111 East 5th, 501 North Texas, and 700 North Texas. Downtown Odessa, it's seen a big uptick in grant interest. We currently have about 10 businesses in the application process since January, with several more showing interest. Another big project we have coming up is downtown Odessa, the College Park coming in on the corner of 4th and Jackson. That project should be breaking ground soon and will include several amenities that will drive the public more towards the downtown area. Downtown Odessa is also working with the city manager's office to get a plan together for the $7 million that was allocated to downtown from the CO issued in 2019. These funds will go towards updates including streetscapes, infrastructure, lighting, etc. We've got a lot of downtown projects going on this year. The Easter egg hunt starts, I believe, this Friday on the 8th, and will go through the 16th of April. There's over 20 stops on the Bunny Trail and over 4,000 prizes this year. We also have the art tour, April 22nd. Tickets are $25 for that event. It's showcasing different mediums of art, glass blowing, t-shirt making, live music, theater performance, and quite a bit more. We also have the Hot Summer Nights free summer concert series, Fridays in June and July. Best of both worlds, June in the Edgar and July in the park. The big event we've got going on this year, and we'll elaborate a little bit more, the Firecracker Fandango. As you know, last year we really didn't have much in place for the Firecracker Fandango due to COVID and all the requirements to get the ball rolling and to find a facility to, to be able to really have the fireworks show and everything. Well, this year, we're off to a fantastic start on this. We've got, number one, we will have fireworks this year. Downtown, we will absolutely have fireworks. We'll have food trucks, jumpers, face painting, there'll be a lot of things going on. We've got musical entertainment. Rick Trevino will be headlining. And Tom Tanango, who is more of a local figure, will be opening for him. Also, too, one of the things that we worked together with downtown Odessa and with the mayor himself, the multicultural arts is kind of heading the parade, and we will have the Fandango celebration will be July 2nd. July 4th, we will have a parade. They are also putting together a barbecue cook-off for the 4th of July, so we will have 2 events this year. Rather than, last year we had almost nothing, we had a car show, and a little of what we could do last year. This year should show a much bigger event, and a bigger showing for the city, and I think the city needs this year. I think it's very important that, after the past couple of years that the city's had with COVID and restrictions, I think it's gonna be a very important event for us, and I think it's gonna show big and kind of bring some morale back to the city. So I think that's a big key factor that we'll have on that. We'll also have downtown, excuse me, it's also partnered with, this summer they'll have the Tacos and Tequila event in May, and several car shows throughout the summer. So far, that's what we have on our events for the summer. There should be more events being added as the summer goes along. We should have more things for the fall. But so far, everything's looking much better this year than what we've had in the past couple of years. So that's really all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Trying to do we want to, have we solidified the site for the fireworks?
Yeah, the fireworks, I believe it's just off of First Street and Grant. The fireworks show will still be able to be very visible from that area. So they did find the location and setting for that. So we've been assured by the city manager and everybody that we have that position available, and there isn't, it looks like that is the location where we will have the fireworks.
Should you be shutting down 385? Just
That, I'm not real sure.
I think the plan is, Mayor, we're going to be shutting down a portion of 385 as it comes up to First Street, and certainly from that point up to 4th or 5th Street on 385, and then certainly portions of 2nd Street will also be shut off.
What's the time frame on
Pretty much all day. Pretty much all day.
that? Pretty much all day.
Grant Street will be closed from 5th to 2nd all day, but then for the fireworks in particular, it will be 15 minutes prior to the firing and 15 minutes after.
And that'll be the underpass?
No, it's going to be 2nd Street and that intersection. So that intersection is going, right where the
East and west? on
structure
Second.
is.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be shot off right there in that little roundabout area off to the side of 2nd.
Okay.
So that
Turn it
whole
on.
area will be fenced off
Turn it
all
on.
day, but then the intersection will only have to be closed for a maximum of that amount of time prior.
When are we
after.
going to start the campaign for that to notify the community of the Fandango and also the shutting down of the streets?
Yes, so we've already got the street closure approved,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're gonna work on getting sponsorships, and then it'll start going out to the community. So we're doing a big media presentation for all of our events this summer, and that'll be part of the package.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Sean, how you doing on your restaurant?
Good question. When we started construction about 2 weeks ago, I normally don't bring up any of my projects, considering that I'm co-chair for downtown Odessa, so I really never really talk about my restaurant unless somebody asks. We started construction, we should be open by September. We want to be open before football season. Of course, the name has changed. It's now called Patrick Clay's Icon Tavern, which of course is named after my brother who passed, who was originally supposed to be the guy up here doing all this stuff. So I'm kind of here by default now and taking over the reins for this. But everything's looking good on the groundwork and everything. They've already done some of the concrete cutting so that we can put in the plumbing that we need and everything. We're waiting on Encore. to come and fix the wiring outside that building that is very dated and very, pretty skeptical. It's a scary situation there, so we're waiting for them to fix that. And we should be once they come in and do that, it should be full-blown construction going on from here on out. They've already got the front doors open, they've got trash bins, they've got everything going on it. So we should be open I'm hoping by the 1st of September. We don't know with delays on equipment and everything with COVID. We're hoping that everything runs smoothly. I think it's enough time to get everything done by then, but September 30th is kind of our deadline that we want to have it done by, but I'm shooting for before football season starts. I'm hoping even before preseason, so that's the big key for us is to get over with it.
Thank you. Don't need to remind you, the city's got an interest in your business, so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, the one thing I guarantee is we are going to be the highest sales tax revenue business downtown. And I challenge anybody here that has a business going into downtown to beat me. And if they beat me, hey, it's just more money for the city. So, but I put that challenge out formally anyway. So
Still lobbying for a Texas corner in there.
by the way, Mayor, hoping you're in my seat. So, but any other questions, guys? Sorry, I got a little flustered there. I didn't expect to be talking about my little brother when I came out here. I had everything cool, calm, and collected before I came in, and now I'm back in my sword. So, but thank you guys for your time, and hopefully talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 3, Odessa Arts Public Art Update. Randy Hammond. You see, we learned from last time, we're going to put you down a little bit further.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I wish I had learned my lesson. But I seem to always think Tuesday is going to be 6 o'clock.
Is that microphone?
Always, and never. It should be on. Testing one. There we go. I basically, okay, just have to get this close.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I do want to thank you for taking your time to listen to this update on the Public Art Committee. First of all, is anybody seeing any new art around town in the downtown area? Yeah. Something maybe 3 stories tall. Yes, as of April 12th, we will be finished with Ferdinand, the mural on the parking garage. The artist has already left. Thank you so much, Randy. I have to say thank you to every single staff member of the city of Odessa for saving my hide on more than one occasion. Whether it's a text, Randy, are you here? Randy, do you have your stuff? But yes, Ferdinand is almost complete. The only thing left is to seal the mural to protect it from vandalism and weather. And the seal coat contractors will be here on April 12th to do that. At that point, we will be finished with that project, which, by the way, was funded entirely through private donations and philanthropic grants. So I really want to thank City Council. I want to thank the selection committee for helping us find this artist. I do believe that Ferdinand is going to be an icon for Odessa. I've already seen people driving by and taking photos and taking selfies. It's just been fantastic. All right, so.
I'm just glad you didn't try to name it Bevo. Yeah, that problem.
A little bit of a problem, a little bit. Yes, thank you. There we go. All right, so I wanted to update you on some in-progress projects that aren't finished. The OPD training facility, they've actually gone even further over the weekend. This morning I got some additional photographs of the construction. All of the concrete form has been poured and cured, and he has started putting the mosaic tile on that. So we're estimating maybe 30 to 60 days before it's here and installed. So we're even further along than we thought, which is nice because we had a lot of delays over the first of the year. So that's our OPD training facility. There we go. For the fire station number 9, the artists have already made one site visit. They have taken measurements for the windows and have gone back and started fabrication on that. And they estimate in about 6 to 8 weeks to have another site visit. and start fitting pieces in. And they're coordinating, obviously, with the contractors on this for the installation on fire station number 9. We're really excited about that. One thing that they are incorporating that you don't see in this diagram and this rendering is the Hurt Family brand that they are going to put on this stained glass. And then, of course, there's Ferdinand, who just looks, and Tom, I think you'll be very happy that it looks exactly like he said it was gonna look, right? So that was great. And again, it took him just over 2 weeks to do all of that. And that's just crazy, especially when you consider that the Black Tulip mural, which was done in February, took about 4 weeks and is about a postage stamp compared to that. So this guy is really amazing and wants to come back and do more work here. Incidentally, I didn't know this when we contracted him, but he has done murals in the Ukraine. And so far as we know, they're all still intact, but he's been looking at that. So. All right, so we actually have 3 designs that have come up for approval for the next phase of public art. This is fire station number 6. This is a $67,000 budget. The artist is Brian Stanton, who is originally from Andrews, Texas, and now lives in Waco, and is very keen to come back and do something in West Texas. So Brian has been working on this since fire station number 9, actually. He submitted for both stations and is very eager to do something back here for his community because this is where he grew up and he spent a lot of time in Odessa and would like to see a piece of his back in his home, old stomping grounds. So that is putting fire to water, and the design is based on the movement of fire hoses as they put out fire. The animal control facility, DeBari and Associates. I'm really, really excited about this. I think this is going to be a beautiful piece for the animal control facility. This is a budget of about $80,000. It is a metal sculpture, and you can get just an idea of the size of this. It will be located between the animal control facility and 42nd Street, so you'll be able to see it from the street. We're going to obviously have to take into account the easements and things that are between, but we think this is going to fit in very nicely. It sends a very positive message. It's something that's going to encourage people to stop and maybe adopt, and that's what we want. We want stop and adopt, so that even the new facility isn't overburdened. And it was very important to the animal control staff, to OPD, and to the selection committee that whatever we put there gave a sense of joy and hope, because people hear animal control facility and it immediately conjures very negative connotations. And so we want to do something that will help ease the burden and save some pets' lives. And so we think this is the perfect piece for that. And as you can see, it's coming in right in budget, even with their contingency. DeBari and Associates is very, very famous. Has anybody seen the Atlanta Falcon in front of the Falcon Stadium? It's huge. That's DeBari and Associates. So we've got a world-class artist that has done some amazing things. They want to do them here in our community. The timeline is about 18 weeks. We think we can get that done right about the same time that the animal control facility will open. One thing that we've been doing since Percent for Art was adopted is playing catch up with the projects that were already approved. And so we think we're kind of rounding that curve now, and we're going to be able to have the art and the facility completed at the same time going forward. That's not a promise, it's just fingers crossed. I think we can do it. And finally, the Family Wellness Clinic on Lee Street. There's a $20,000 budget for a mural. We sent that out. We had a lot of people from the community ask about a postcard mural. And we wanted something that was like, you are here in Odessa. We had about 47 artists apply for this commission. We narrowed it down to 3. The artist that we chose, this artist here actually sent us about a dozen concept drawings. And this was the one that the committee chose. There are a couple of design elements that are going to change. The jackrabbit is changing to a skull, a longhorn skull. And
I like that.
yeah, I thought you might. And
Longhorns all over the place.
then we're gonna have, I know this is gonna be, instead of the city of Jackrabbits, we're gonna have the city of Bull. Odessa, the city of Bull.
Full of bull. Let's change that. Let's change that. Okay.
The 3 of us have a better idea than that.
Oh, why do you not like the jackrabbit?
Well, we wanted to have something different because we have 37 jackrabbits, actually 36.
They multiply.
Well, they do, and they multiply a lot. So he actually had suggested a rattlesnake and also a skull, a longhorn skull, and a couple of other things. I think horned toad, and the committee was really interested in. It looked a little more Western with the skull, and the colors are going to be a little bit more orange to bring to mind the sunsets, because we always talk about what beautiful sunsets we have here. And then the top left-hand corner is being changed to a ponchac, so we'll have that there. But other than that, what you're seeing is pretty much what the mural is going to look like. And that should be finished by the end of summer as well, pending approval. So by the end of summer, I just want to mention this, we have Ferdinand, we have this mural, we have the Black Tulip mural, we have an ECISD 100th anniversary mural, and we're hoping to have a Black Cultural Council, Black History mural done as well. So we'll have 5 new murals in the span of about 6 to 8 months. And I'm really proud of that, because not all of them are percent for art. Some of them are privately funded, and some of them are funded through the school district and through grants. And so what we're seeing is other people in the community seeing what we're doing and emulating that and putting their own money towards it, which I think is fantastic. And that's what this program is supposed to do, is to encourage private investment in the arts as well. Yep, and that's it. Those are my 3 proposals. So,
Council, any questions?
Mr. Hammond, just to be clear, you will bring this back for final council approval at the next council meeting?
yes, sir. And I am available at any time except clearly at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays to answer any questions and talk you through any of the process for this. But I will be back next week at 6 o'clock and to get approval for these designs.
Council, any questions? Richard?
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you very much.
We're going to move on to item number 4, net ops discussion. Mr. Mitchell Block.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitchell Block. I am president of Net Ops Communications. I believe, I'm not sure if everyone has been kind of briefed on discussion so far as to why we are here and what we are asking for, but essentially boils down to ODC grant money that was requested last year and has been kind of moving through the process and paperwork for approval. So I will discuss a little bit about the project and why we're requesting the funds. We are a internet service provider in the Midland, Odessa area with our primary focus outside of city limits. We do not really want to step inside of the city limits. There are plenty of multi-million-dollar companies right now that have more than enough money to beat us any day of the week, and they also have infrastructure in the ground that we do not. Currently, right now, we are in the process of finalizing the designs and building out fiber to the home for South Odessa, West Odessa, Gardendale, as well as Goldsmith, which basically takes care of all of the communities outside the city limits. When we originally approached ODC asking for grant money, the money was to be for funding these projects, but that's not quite how the process works. So that was rolled into actually getting grant money for employment. I believe the proposal boiled down to 20 full-time employees at the end of the project, and just shy of $900,000 in total grant money, which is basically 20 employees' wages for a year. That's really about it with without getting into a lot of very technical aspects and details, but I am happy to go down that rabbit hole with anybody that does have questions regarding that.
I've got one, sorry, I've got one. Do y'all provide just the fiber or services as well?
We own the infrastructure as well as provide service to the end user.
Okay,
Yes.
so you do both?
Yes, we do both.
Yeah, and I'm sure your pricing's competitive with, I mean, it's private enterprise, so, I'm just curious how your charging works for the people in the community.
Yeah, so, pricing probably does not look like what, Grande or is now Sound and Sparklight and AT&T does inside of city limits. However, the FCC has published a urban rate survey sheet that shows what the national average for cost is. And for the top tier plans, as far as like a gigabit speed plan, which is about top tier as it gets at the moment, the national average right now is $149 a month. And with our current plans and proposals, we're coming in at $75 a month. So we're well below half the national average. And one thing that has been discussed in some of the meetings that have taken place to kind of bring to light really what we're trying to do, there have been broadband surveys done in the communities from the city as well as the school district, and in those surveys, a lot of people will complain that either there's no service available whatsoever, the service is slow, doesn't work very well, or it's well overpriced. We've really come in with our design that has actually checked off all of those boxes. So we're providing service to every household. We're providing service up to gigabit speeds, which is, again, about as fast as you can get at the moment. And we also have greatly reduced our pricing and have come in with low-income plans that are affordable for everyone. We've also been fully accepted into the new FCC program, the Affordable Connectivity Program, that provides low-income families that qualify a $30 a month credit for internet service. We've also created a low-income family plan with a baseline of $30. So for those families that do qualify, they essentially get free internet with that plan. So as far as affordability goes, I think we have gone above and beyond what most enterprise companies are doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
So did you say you were currently in some areas of West and South Odessa? Or what did you say?
Yes, correct. We do already cover a large portion of West Odessa. Actually, we do cover all of West Odessa with our fixed wireless service. We do have coverage in South Odessa as well as Gardendale. But we are moving into fiber to the home, which is becoming a very big challenge, especially outside of city limits in these county areas where there's not a lot of rules and regulations. We've run into a lot of challenges already, specifically in South Odessa, where easements and right-of-ways are just non-existent. They've built permanent structures over them, permanent fences, literally houses, mobile homes underneath power lines. It's becoming a very large challenge for probably anybody that wants to run infrastructure in those areas to do it cost effectively or at all. So we're continuously evolving, and we're going to get it done one way or another. But that's some of the fun that we're dealing with at the moment.
Mitchell, go ahead, Mike.
One question I have, Mr. Mitchell, is you mentioned that it's going to mostly be primarily out in the county. Why Why didn't you address or take this to the county? But they have ARPA funds available for this.
We have been discussing this with the county as far as having the county, with those ARPA funds, the Coronavirus Fiscal Recovery Funds Act money that was distributed to the county, which in our eyes was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that actually included broadband as part of the infrastructure plan. Not a lot of government money that has been available in the past has been specifically for broadband, and that's probably why we're seeing such a lack of in these rural areas outside of city limits where, you know, private enterprise just doesn't want to go because it is so costly and expensive to, you know, get the job done. I don't know where we're at with those discussions, but it has been brought to light. We have shared the plan with them. Again, but the ODC application and discussions, that all took place before the ARPA money even existed. So, you know, that's kind of why there's a process that we're following here. But yes, that has been discussed with them. We've shared our plans, shared the pricing, what we need to do, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Are you under any time constraints, or are you, I mean, are there any timing issues, I guess is my question.
The biggest, we're not really under time constraints, however, supply chain issues are at the moment have become just a really difficult thing, probably for any business at the moment. But, you know, our lead times for fiber specific products have jumped from 3 to 6 months now to 6 to 9 months on the low end. And, you know, with $64 billion that was just released by the government for broadband in the United States, anybody that's getting any of that money, they're going to be in the same boat. And, you know, with a lot of the products unfortunately being made overseas, you know, there's also issues with getting it into ports, being manufactured in the first place. So those are some of the big challenges that we do face. As far as timeframes, otherwise, you know, it's all being privately funded and built as it comes. So it'll be a long process if we end up having to do it all, you know, essentially out of pocket.
Mitchell, we've had a few discussions. We had a presentation at the chamber where wanted to see some financials, W-2, you know, what was going to be W-2s, 1099, things of that nature. To this day, I still have yet to see any. It's not no faulty or anything. I just not, and I've asked for those. And so, we're going beyond that point. We've discussed the project itself. So, in this broadband that the government's doing, your whole service area, which you bid it on, is south of I-20, 1788, south Ector County, west Odessa, Gardendale, correct?
Okay.
And so Goldsmith, yes. And so, a couple of questions I asked you, and I asked you that you bid this thing out, and you responded. You were looking at 225 to 250 per door when you bid it out. Is that correct? As far as your cost, you initially came over to Odessa Development Corporation seeking funding for material.
Correct, for the infrastructure, yes.
And the ODC informed me that that's not what they do, but they do in as far as salaries.
Yes,
and the
for the
creation of
employment,
jobs.
correct.
And so then you went through the process of applying for that.
Correct.
But my question is, you know, what is happening with the project? And when you bid this whole thing out, we're talking about $250 and get that fiber optic to the door. What you've experienced now, and in our discussions, and you discussed, you're about $850 per door. So it's necessary for the ODC for us to be able to help you to be able to bring that cost down, because you just said that the average cost is about $149. What does Net Hughes charge the residents down in the county right now for their services, which I hear is not very good, per month?
So to touch on all those topics, just so it's on the record for everybody, yes, it will be W-2 full-time employees, and they will be actually very well high-paying jobs. Right now, we're hiring at a minimum of $22 an hour, which is probably pretty comparable, if not above, what some oil and gas jobs are entry level at the moment. So I think we're doing pretty good as far as that aspect for creating high-paying full-time employment jobs. am trying to remember what may have been discussed, or I may have said $250 a home for that. Because yeah, the cost for the fiber right now is $850 per home passed.
Yeah.
As far as a customer who would sign up for a HughesNet satellite system, that is a satellite internet connection that goes 22,000 miles in space and back, so there's extremely high latency. You usually see 800 to 900 milliseconds of latency times. You can't do sensitive things like voice over IP, which is basically how phones operate these days. People can't do online gaming, stuff like that. It's just too much jitter latency. It's honestly not even comparable to fiber or fixed wireless from a cell tower that we operate in now. To a point, however, Starlink, which is basically kind of like satellite internet as well, however, they operate with low Earth orbiting constellations. I'm sure everyone's heard about the thousands and thousands and thousands of satellites that they launch into the sky, and hopefully they don't come crashing down.
Well,
Like some
they just did have some.
Yeah, they did, yes, hopefully no more.
14 of them.
Yeah, they actually just raised their pricing, so their baseline equipment is now $599.
And what's next, Hughes, about 250? I've asked some residents out in West Odessa.
Yeah, I want to say HughesNet is several $100s, probably $300 to $400 in equipment if you purchase it, but I think they have options to bundle that into like a lease with your monthly plan for a 2-year contract, I think.
Now,
If you cancel it, you end up paying for it.
some of the issue, what you're gonna be doing in what you're doing in South Odessa and South Ector County is you're passing the fiber optic over power poles.
Yes, the two options would be to use our existing agreement with Encore for pole ride attachments, or we would have to bury the cable.
And in some cases, you're gonna have to do both.
In some cases, we'll have to do both, and in some cases, we'll have to continue our hybrid approach where some will be fiber and some will be wireless. because
There's
it's just
lack
not
of
feasible.
right of way, lack of
Correct.
of uniformity in how how things exist down, and that's just south of that land. I haven't even gotten into West Odessa. And also, you also have the responsibility to replace the power poles.
Yes, we've already completed our initial permit walkthrough with Encore for the entirety of Pleasant Farms, which was right around 2,000 lots. And I think that actually ended up being about 1,100 physical homes from all of our data that we've sourced. Yeah, just in that South Pleasant Farms. That's east of 385, Wilson's Corner area, west, sorry, I said east, and then everything kind of heading north that way.
You're gonna have to use the 50-footers, and also you're gonna have to have AT&T to move their line because you're adding another line.
Correct. There are some areas, especially in the northern part of the community, where the poles, majority of the poles out there anyways are extremely old, and they all have to be replaced with Class 3 50-foot creosote poles, which is a cost that Encore passes on to us, and they've quoted anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 on the low end per pole. So all the poles have to be replaced, power has to be raised, and then there are some areas where AT&T actually does have some extremely old cable. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but they would have to have a work order placed for them to come out and move it as well into a specific height range so that it has height clearances from the ground or over roads, et cetera. So for some of those areas, it's become almost unfeasible to run fiber. So we'll have to change our approach and continue with the hybrid design with fiber and wireless where it makes sense.
So this is gonna be payroll, in essence, to get you down to the 75. Is that what you're looking at, your price point that you want to be able to do per household for your services?
Yes, correct. So, and that's for the top tier gigabit plan. So, with all of the cost savings that we're trying to pass on to the consumer, that's only really going to be possible if we can fund the construction with outside sources. Otherwise, we're going to have to continue with the normal ROI model that any business would of charging install fees, which in this case, the normal install fee ranges from $99 to $149. With the funded model, there is no install fee. So any resident that has fiber pass would automatically be able to get it with no money out of their pocket. And then again, our plans that we've created for that proposal that have just immense cost savings to the consumer, those plans would have to change and go back to normal cost savings, otherwise we'd never be able to afford it or pay for this or get the money back out of the investment.
So right now, you already have how big is your staff right now?
Currently, we have 4 employees.
Okay, so you would be able to access these funds, which is 900,000? Is that what we're talking about?
Correct. Once we have 20 full-time employees, I believe we're able to send in requests for.
What would be your time to pay? Because this will be funded after the fact. So
Yes,
when
correct.
do you see that time?
Yeah, so, with the way things look right now, if we don't receive any additional funding, it's probably gonna be a 2 to 3 year, down the road before we actually have 20 full-time employees, because we're spending millions and millions of dollars building infrastructure in these areas to actually have the need to hire 20 employees. Otherwise,
So how quickly were you able to get to it? And do you estimate to be able to get to the 20 employees for the 900,000 investment? And this is going to be paid out over 5 years, correct? Am I correct in that? 5 years.
well, as of right now, we have to, continue operations as normal and assume that we're not getting any funding, and that's the course that we have at the moment, until something changes. So, again, I see that taking about 2 to 3 years to have 20 full-time employees.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Council, anybody else have questions?
So has this been through ODC, or is it?
Yes.
Okay, so instead of ODC president, we're just hearing from him today. I'm kind of confused, Michael.
Tracy's here if you want to.
Well, if everybody recalls, we were going to hear this presentation back in October.
Yes.
When we opened up the new center for the police, and at that time you were unable to make it.
Correct.
So then we were to be able to hear you, which would wind up being your son's birthday.
Yes.
So we had a discussion, and he wanted to get it notified, last minute, and he didn't want to have to. So we had a discussion, so I said, you know what, don't worry about it, have your son's birthday. I'm the one that rescheduled it for the 3rd. And then we spoke right before then, and then we discussed this in length, and then I said, Mitchell, do you want to go ahead and go forward? He said, yes, sir, we're down this route. I said, fine, we'll put it on the ACO, and that's how we're here. It has gone through ODC, they did discuss it, there was a brief discussion, I pulled the minutes on that, and there was a brief discussion moved on, they moved over to Odessa Development Corporation, and it passed, and then it was going to be presented to us in October, and that's when Tracy informed us that you weren't available, and then nothing happened, and now I called for the meeting, so we can find out where we're at, and we're here today, and his making the presentation.
Okay.
I believe it was also kind of somewhat requested that I was able to present information as well, just because of some of the technicalities of it.
Sure.
To make sure that, the full scope of details would be able to be spoken on if anyone did have questions for that.
Yeah, very extensive, runs a lot. Still can't remember the very good. Kathy, any other questions?
So will you be hosting other ISPs? Or just?
We are not trying to get into a leased model where we install fiber and have companies pay us to have access over it now. Yeah, that's a very interesting model in and of itself, and that's also going to take out affordability for a lot of companies, because if I'm being charged a minimum to have access onto that monthly fee, I'm already going to have to bundle on top of my pricing. So that $30 monthly cost that I'm rolling into a $30 plan to get credited by the Affordable Connectivity Plan, that's no longer an option. Because if they're gonna charge me $30 to $40 a month access onto that system, I now have to roll that $30 to $40 cost over into my cost. And a lot of those models also have, minimum spends, basically like your MVNO programs with AT&T and Verizon, like Cricket Wireless that operates over AT&T. They require you to spend a minimum amount to even have a contract to get access onto those lines. So it's a very interesting model. It might work in some areas, but that's definitely not something that we're interested in at the moment. We're trying to focus on our growth into the areas that are unserved, as well as continue our excellent customer service and providing advertised speeds.
Council, any other questions?
I don't have any questions for him. I've got some comments, but no questions for him. So instead of you having to stand there, here's my problem. Here we go one more time, taking care of the county's business. And that's outside the city limits. I understand the 20 jobs, I get that part. I'm all for economic development, I'm all for diversification. You're talking about 2-3 year period, it's $900,000, and it's out in the county. I mean, I understand we do stuff out in the county, we do materials out in the county, I get that part. However, this is something that really ought to be at the Commissioner's Court and not here, in my opinion. They've got the money through the ARPA funds to do what you need to get done. They need to be taking care of their school district people, because I know that the school district's got their plan going. They got students out in the county that need service. And I feel for all those people, I understand. But I just have a problem with the city of Odessa having to fund all this stuff all the time. And y'all all know how I feel about it. I'm very adamant about it. So, you know, the Commissioner's Court needs to step up, take care of the county. The county, you know, we're part of the county as well, inside the city limits. And we're doing our part to do this part. They need to take care of everything out in Goldsmith, and Gardendale, and out at Wilson's Corner. They're getting their sales tax out there. I mean, it's their problem. And I understand the jobs and jobs for the city of Odessa. It's really very minimal number of jobs. And it's just a project that I just don't think that the city of Odessa really needs to be involved in. That's a county problem. And anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Sure. Anybody else on the council? Mitchell, thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Item 5, consider economic development agreement between the ODC and NetOps Communication LLC. Mr. Brooks.
Mayor, I believe Tracy or Mr. Mansky, either one of you guys want to speak on behalf of the ODC board?
Good afternoon. Please state your name for this, just for the record. Tom Mansky.
Thank you, sir.
And was there a question? I was actually talking to Tracy.
Oh, no.
I thought they were going to run something.
No. Now, I will use the excuse that when this was discussed, I was not here.
Well, that's a good one.
Okay, so, I mean, the thing is that there's an item here on item 5 to consider economic development agreement between ODC and NetOps Communication. So we're under the presumption is that you're going to make that presentation based on what that agreement is between the Odessa Development Corporation and NetOps.
Well, I will call Tracy up, she worked closely, or more closely on that. So,
And Mayor, just for clarification, the way our system is set up, they have to put the items under a city employee, so they put the ODC items
So you
under.
defer to Tom and then, okay.
Yes.
Tracy?
And actually, David Boutin was supposed to be here today to do this because it's a board presentation on.
You go ahead and speak up on the mic.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's why I was asking the question a minute ago, why y'all weren't here to talk about it instead of him having to.
Yes, and David Boutin just had something else that this afternoon was not able to make it, is the reason that we're here. So, the project was vetted through, the reason that, a lot of the reason why this project came to be is because the ODC board felt that there was a need in the community because there were so many areas in the county and the city of Odessa that did not have broadband connectivity. And so they paid for a study with Motran originally to address that situation. So this is that's what has come about since that study was completed through Motran. The project did go through the compliance committee, vetted, they looked at all the financials and we did the matrix and the job creation grant and the capital investment grant. And because the capital investment is outside of the city limits and it is even cut more as far as the grant amount that is given to them. And I had that pulled up and give you the numbers. Okay, so the job creation grant that the matrix showed that they could qualify for was $538,784. And that was for I can't remember exactly the number of jobs. I think it was 24 jobs and an annual payroll. And then capital investment that they showed on the application that they would be making into the community, into the county, was $14 million. And based on that $14 million and the matrix, and then the fact that it was outside of the city limits, the capital investment grant was only $300,000, so it was a total $300,000. So it was a total of $868,000, which would be paid over a 5-year period. They do have to, of course, maintain the logs and show that they're making the capital investment into the community, that there is a compliance factor every year with these projects.
Tracy, that 14 million, you're saying that's capital investment, is that all primarily in the Ector County Tax Assistant District? It's a simple yes or no?
Yes, yes, yes.
I know, I don't
Yes.
want to,
Okay,
I don't
yes.
want to place that on the record.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It goes back to what Councilman Thompson's
Correct.
saying, is that we're making an investment in
In-
14 million the OVC is putting into it. When did the, how many years has it been that we've had the tax district in 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years for the, yes.
So that area
Right,
was
yeah.
contributing up to 2 years. 2 years ago is when it stopped, roughly.
Well, if it wasn't in the city.
No, it was not in the city.
It was never contributed.
Right.
So the Pleasant Farms area generates sales tax, doesn't it?
It only,
Only
no.
Because that's what we're talking about right now, is where you started, is in the Pleasant Farms area.
Prior to the Ector County Assistance District, anything outside the city limits
Incorporated was not put into the
only
OVC.
paid into the Ector County Hospital District.
Okay. Okay. So, but the thing is that the 14 million is an investment into the tax.
Yes, yes, yes.
And yet, because I've asked Mr. Block if we could go back and talk to the county one more time about an investment.
Okay.
It's not beyond the realm of possibilities.
Right.
But,
Okay.
you know, it's worth another try. And so, okay, that's all I've got.
Okay.
Council?
So in this agreement, is there stipulation where these 20 employees have to be?
Well, they are, but they're in Ector County.
Okay.
Is where
In the
they're gonna
county?
be. Yes, within the county. I think he's.
Not necessarily the city.
Yes.
Well, it could be, I guess you could be in the city and not be in the county.
There could be a minimum.
This is true, but it is in Ector County.
I would say that if you're in the city, you're in.
Last time I checked.
A couple of spots it is in Ector County.
Any other questions, comments, council? You have anything else? No? Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 6, amend the city code, article 69, adding 611, definition of public assistance, adding to reduction of vendor service fee and public assistance, and providing authority to create a hardship policy and procedure. Mr. Butler. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the time. I'd like for y'all to consider a couple of things that we have going on in ambulance business. One of the things that we're tasked to do is to build the EMS services for the city. And it's a very competitive world that EMS billing and collection exists in. There are a lot of ravenous private sectors that would love to be able to take over. But good for us is that we're better. And that's one of the things that we're always striving to do, is to be able to do it better, do it faster. So one of the things is that we are participating in a hardship assistance program. This program used to exist as the charity care program. And this was just a few years ago, 2019, I think it was 2019. And at that point, it was just the ability to collect anything Medicare and Medicaid that wasn't paid. So, we went and we hired a consulting firm and they helped us. And, a lot of work, but we ended up collecting, let me see. We were eligible and we qualified for $1,098,739.76. That's what the city qualified for. But we were also in competition with other cities. And we ended up, after what it's termed a haircut, that's what the state calls it. You get a haircut after all of this. And we ended up with $639,356. We paid BCG, a consultant, 15%, and which is $95,000. And we ended up with a total payment of $543,454. A lot of this was lost within the brouhaha that happened in 2019. It should have been a pretty big deal because we collected all this money for the fire department. And but it kind of got lost in everything that was happening. I had told Michael, you know, I'd like to get a gigantic check and put it out there. And I said, this is where we're going to present it to the council. And here's a big $500,000 check that we got. You just can't plan these things. Things happen. So the government, I guess it must have been a little too easy because they've changed and moved the goalposts on us. So this program doesn't exist as it used to exist. Now they kind of mimic the hospital model, and the hospital model says indigent care. So, which now we have to go through different processes to get there. It takes a little bit of work, but we're not afraid of work. And the language that we're asking you to consider to the change in the ordinance is we're going to change it to hardship assistance program. It's still under the indigent care program, but we're naming it hardship assistance. And what that does basically is allows us to participate in this program, the change in language. And thank you for legal for helping. They're quick and it's hard to keep up with them. They're so fast, but we were able to. And Clarissa, she's heading up the project. Clarissa Hearn, so very lucky to have both of them. So basically what happens is that it's for uninsured patients that ride the ambulance. And there's some qualifications. So I'd like to, first of all, show you what we currently do. We have total charges of $8,538,000 and some change. And we collect about $3 million and a half from what we do. Which is by ambulance industry standard, that's fairly high. Most hover around 30%. We're at 41%. But we still have a lost revenue of $5 million annually from EMS. A lot of cities just, okay, we'll live without it. It's okay. But we do have an opportunity to recover that lost revenue. And this is part of this hardship assistance.
Copy, how much of a percentage can we go up by having this change and recovering that lost $5 million?
Well, they're estimating about $4 million that we'll be eligible for. The consulting firm. Luckily, we were still in contract with the consulting firm, so they've been able to look at our stuff, and they're the ones that we've been in contact with. So where are we? The qualifications for this. Hardship is based on qualification. The patient will be eligible to get a percentage of the bill reduced or allow for the patient to make lower monthly payments. This is based on basically poverty levels and stipulations that the government has placed. There are certain zip codes that automatically qualify. 761 and 763 automatically qualify. They're thinking maybe 764 is going to qualify as well, but they don't know as of yet. Anyone with a credit score of 550 or lower, and any patients that do not have insurance and is under the federal poverty guideline. So anyone within these qualifications are eligible for this. And it's going to be up to us to market this to our citizens and the people who ride the ambulance, who are treated in the ambulance. So there's some of the numbers. These are just basically numbers that may mean something. 50% is that we're able to collect from 25% assistance, and then affordable payment plans. All these things that we'll be allowed to collect and ask for from these funds that are available. Because they've changed it, currently there aren't too many cities that are participating. It's a little bit of work. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing, but like I said, we're not afraid of a little bit of work. We'll see the marketing. We're going to start placing the message on the invoices that you may qualify for hardship assistance. We're going to put information on the website, and then use our social media accounts and anything that we have available to us to help out. So just to get the word out, anything that will help. That's basically it. I mean, that's all. We're changing the language that will allow us to participate in this program to the existing ordinance. You have any questions?
If you ran the numbers, what it's gonna cost us as far as cost, what's gonna be the cost for every dollar we're gonna attempt to recover?
15%, so
It's gonna be the city's cost.
that'll be 15% of whatever we collect. They just work on collections, so.
So they'll be doing it, third party will be doing it.
Third party will be doing, yes, they'll be doing part of the work. We just have to provide the information to them, and they'll do everything else. They'll file it, they'll get us, they'll recover the money for us.
How are we grabbing the data and then give it to them? And what's our responsibility grabbing?
Our responsibility is just for the process. The marketing, talking to the customer, and just getting them enrolled in this program.
And then the zip codes, 616364.
Maybe 6-4.
Maybe 6-4.
They're thinking maybe 6-4.
We're 6-4, I know where 6-4 is.
It's the same area, right?
Same area, I'm sorry, same area.
And we're talking single, just single Odessa, we're talking county-wide. We're talking
countywide.
We are talking county.
Everything, yes, county.
So are they gonna market this in other than English and Spanish, things of that nature?
Yes, English and Spanish, that we both, Nara helps with that, so we're addressing
Do we
those.
see our participation decreasing when we go and cross over from English to Spanish and Spanish families?
No, we really don't. Odessa has a high Hispanic rate, so it really doesn't.
So in your analysis, in the analysis that was done, how many Of the money that's being lost, how much is that in West Odessa?
In West Odessa.
You gotta know that number.
I do, I kind of, I don't know for West Odessa. I did have some county numbers that I provided. I just,
Yeah, what are the county numbers there?
it was up there.
Well, I need to know what the number is.
I don't have it off the top of my head.
If you don't have, just see if you can provide for the council.
I will,
Yeah.
I sure will.
I wanna know what's coming from West Odessa, because, I think, my sense of it is most of those people all qualify for this. A lot of them do, I would think.
But all the billing is being done through us because all the EMS calls are through our fire department.
I get that part, but it's costing us money. Those runs cost us money, we're in our trucks.
Absolutely, but this is a method where we can help recoup some of that cost,
No,
that revenue back in.
Right, I get that part, I get that. I just wanna know how much is out there. I mean, how many of that 5 million we're losing is more of it lost out there or inside the city? You see what I'm saying? Does it
Yes.
make any sense?
Yes, sir. You know, I didn't approach it as West Odessa. I just approached it as what was done out in the county.
But that's fair enough, that's fair enough.
I didn't.
The same, yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
By extrapolation, we have about 30% of our calls
Yes, sir.
in the county, so
What are we averaging on the day?
average calls runs in the county varies.
It varies, it varies.
It's
We make
weekly.
over 100 calls a day, and so anywhere from 25 to 30% of those calls are out in the county.
And I shared that.
Yes,
With you.
I shared those
That's what I
numbers
got.
with the chief. The chief has those numbers as well.
Yeah.
I shared it with the chief.
We just don't have them with us.
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine, but there's other things going on, so I just need to know what that number is.
So some of those other
there's a
things
method
goes
to
back to
the
what.
There's nothing to the madness.
I agree. I had anticipated that question.
That Mr. Thompson's talking about is, what is the county doing to help, financially?
Well, I think they take the approach is that, well, you collected for my insurance.
Yeah.
I've heard the accusation that the city does a double dip.
Yes.
Not only do we collect it from their insurance, we also have to go Medicare, Medicaid, and then we wind up doing third-party billing. And so it's been under that premise that we'll just let you handle it because you're double dipping, you're charging the county residents twice. This is what preempted this whole process right here, what we're seeing before us.
Yes.
To be able to answer those questions.
Yes.
Right.
This is why Councilmember Thompson's asking for those numbers, because it goes back to what I said, there's a method to the madness.
Well, I had seen the writing on the wall, and so I put together these numbers a few months back.
Great.
So,
You do us bring those Tuesday, it'd be great.
okay. Yes, sir.
I have a question. 30% of our calls are in the county. How much more expensive are those calls than calls in the city?
Good question.
It costs more to go to Goldsmith than it does to Grandview.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Within the billing model, we do get to bill for mileage. So it's, the care itself isn't, but the mileage does go up.
See, in my understanding from the police department, which Chief, correct me, but they're liable to pull an ambulance or a crew from Station 6 as well as over here on the west side of Odessa. So however many miles that is to Goldsmith or West Odessa, either one, it's a lot of extra, that's a lot of extra miles. Which is my concern is the wear and tear on the equipment.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Because I know that's where our big wear and tear is.
902 square miles is what we're responding to.
902 square miles we're
Yes, sir.
covering.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just a little short distance in West Texas.
Well,
Problem.
my
You
concern
can't even get
is-
you can't even get an electric car to go that far.
I live in what would be Fire District Number 4, which is a primary responder out west of town. So when the ambulance for my district is going out to Goldsmith,
You're not
I have
covered.
no one.
Yeah, but-
Well, I shouldn't say I have no one, that's not correct, because I have other stations. But it extends the response time.
Time response gets bigger.
Which means our residents are more at risk, which is the whole point of the conversation.
Anyway,
It
so
is
much.
also goes toward the interlocal
Is this
Absolutely.
rural a state
Especially
fund?
It's,
Mhm.
Or
it's
is it
federal,
federal?
federal money provided to the state,
Okay,
and then we apply.
okay. I think it sounds like a pretty good avenue to help with some of our
Yeah.
reimbursement.
Absolutely, yeah, good.
I like
It's just
that,
a little
yeah.
bit of hustle.
Yeah.
It's just hustle.
We've kind of gone down a different route. Right, Natasha?
We're still on the topic.
So, and I, just, Council Paul, I'd like to just to caution that there are 2 reports that are out there. I think the fire department ran a call report, the percentage of calls that are out there. And I'll just put together some numbers on the money, a little bit more along my lines, the way I think.
For just EMS.
Yes. So that's, it. If you have any questions, any more questions concerning that?
Any more questions on item 6?
I'm sure you want to ask that question.
No, I just have a comment, just
Yes, sir.
appreciate you doing the legwork for this, and I know it is a little extra work, but it's worth it in the long run.
Yes, sir. I like to take credit, but Clarissa and the legal Naira, they're spreading, they get stuff done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move up to item 7. Consider
Yes.
the approval of amendment number 1 to the contract with public consulting group incorporated.
Yes, okay, so the next one is, we'd like a resolution to help to allow us to hire, the same consulting firm, PCG, Public Consulting Group, to, run a Medicare cost report. So now, the government is, the federal government is telling us that we have to provide a Medicare cost report, or we take a cut of $171,000.
Out of the 15%,
No, this is completely different,
really separate.
completely different thing. So they want us to prepare a Medicare cost report. You don't have to, okay, we don't have to. But they're gonna cut.
We'll lose this if we don't.
Yes, we'll lose this if we don't. So it's something that, you know, they make it very appealing to do.
Yeah. But what's it gonna cost you to do the Medicare cost reports? They're not easy.
No, it's gonna cost us $35,000.
Annually?
Yes. Yes, so, PCG will also do this report for us.
So they'll do it?
They'll do
So
it.
you don't have to hire any extra staff, right?
No,
We won't.
no,
Okay.
they'll do it.
That makes me feel better.
Yes, 35.
It's working.
Gabby, that's a one-time cost, or is that an annual cost?
Yeah.
That is an
It'll
annual.
be annual. Because Medicare cost reporting is a nightmare.
Yes.
You gotta know what you're doing.
Is this prospective loss an annual loss?
Yes, an annual loss.
We would be covering the cost from what funds, from what we've recovered? I'm just trying to.
Yes,
pay with that.
yes.
Yeah.
We'll pay that.
Okay, so, Zach, are you looking for a consensus to move forward on this from the council?
Yes, this is what?
We want to proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Mata?
Sure, yes.
Councilman Thompson?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Spalls?
Yes.
Councilmember Willis?
What was the question? No.
A consensus,
Go ahead.
a consensus to move forward to,
No, I heard you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm serious. Gabby, you have consensus, we'll move forward with that.
Okay.
On item 7.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
I
your
appreciate it.
presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, consider the approval of discretionary service agreement funding for work required on on-call water treatment plant rehab and surveillance upgrade project. Phil?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This agenda item is to consider for a contract with Encore for the replacement of a new transformer and a switchgear at the water treatment plant. This project will be funded out of the 2021 certificates of obligation that were established for the water treatment plant. If council recalls, when this was approved, this project in November, there was a contingency set aside of 19% of the original bid price, and we'll be utilizing that contingency fund to pay for this. This was an identified cost, as there is substantial electrical upgrades taking place in the plant, and so with that contingency, we were going to pull this out. Encore is the sole source provider and the only group that can provide this work. And so, be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Council, any questions?
This wasn't in the budget, original budget?
No, sir. We did not put this in the construction budget for the project, because if we did put it in with that project, we would have seen overhead that would have been provided in the form of a change order or some other type of overhead from the group. So we contracted directly with Encore for it.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson, just for the council's knowledge, this actually has been something that we've been working toward for a couple of years. So I think just longer now have gotten the cost.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't just because of the renovations, it was coming anyway.
It was coming in.
Right, I got it.
Council, any comments, questions? Philip, anything else? Thank you. We move to item 9, consider approval of purchase of 6 outfitted fire package Tahoes and equipment. Chief Taylor?
I'm just gonna rapid fire through all these that I have on here.
Rapid fire.
All right, so the first one is, consider the purchase of 6 outfitted fire package Tahoes. These are replacement Tahoes. We have some aging Tahoes in our fleet. This will replace 2 of our admin Tahoes, 2 Fire Marshal Division Tahoes. Actually, it's 3 Fire Marshal Division Tahoes, but 2 are going to be regular outfitted, and we're also getting a transport Tahoe to be able to transport people that are under arrest in certain situations where we may have to. We don't currently have one of those Tahoes. And then also to replace our aging battalion chief Tahoe. The fire package Tahoes do come fully painted, the decals, the lighting, the sirens, all those things. So they are turnkey. This is a purchase of $423,907. This will be through Sims Martin, HGAC. Again, these are replacement Tahoes. The turnaround time on these, we're looking at about 12 to 15 months.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they used to be turned around in 9 to 12 months now. It's pushing on.
Everything.
Everything, yes, sir.
So what's the total cost?
$423,907.
What are we doing with the other vehicles? Send them an auction?
Yes, sir.
And whatever we recoup on that, we're putting it back into, where's the money?
This comes out of the equipment service fund.
So the money that we get from the auction will go back into equipment service?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, any questions? Any comments? Any direction? Chief, anything else?
No.
Okay.
Okay, a few others on here, so.
Yes, sir. We move on to item 10, consider approval of purchase of 18 new sets of bunker gear.
Okay.
Chief, oh man, you got a whole bunch over here.
Yes, sir. So several rapid fire things. As you can see, I have 2 different agenda items on here for new bunker gear. The first one is for 18 new sets. This is for the new fire station 9. This is to get all the personnel that we'll be hiring for that particular station outfitted with new bunker gear. That includes the bunker coat and the pant. That is there's kind of 2 sets in there. There's an outer shell and an inner shell. That's what both of these are. These have a 10-year shelf life and then a 5-year actual use life. So if they are exposed to fires, they can only be exposed for 5 years. They also has to pass an annual test and have to have annual inspections. The gear is going to be purchased through, it is a buy-board purchase through Metro Fire. This is actually the first year we are using Metro Fire. We're changing from what we used to use, which is Casco, because their lead time on their bunker gear is now 12 to 15 months, and that's just too long to be waiting on gear. Metro Fire can actually do it in 4 to 6 months, and that is because they actually have a patent on the inner gear that goes along with this. This total cost is $54,450.
Council, any questions? Any comments?
And when is 9 going to be finished?
May
9, we.
May 13th.
May 13th.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so.
we're behind the curve a little bit.
Well, and so, we're also, we still have some of these individuals in training, and so they won't be ready for, hopefully, till right around June, the individuals that we're purchasing gear for. We have some older gear that just some personnel we've left, so we've outfitted them with those, but those gear are fixing to expire, so we know we need full sets for them.
That's what I was curious about, whether you'll get the gear in the meantime.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, we have gear, but it's just not gonna last very long. We need to get this
Got it.
done.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and move on to the next item. Will be,
Next item.
Number 11.
Next item is another 35 cents. This 35 sets of full bunker gear. This is our annual replacement. We generally always do at least 35 sets. When we're looking at our bunker gear again, this because of the expiration dates, we try to get a little bit ahead. We have 35 sets that are coming up for expiration later this year. And so that's what this purchase is. It's going through the same company that I described in the previous agenda item. This is going to be for a total of $106,750.
Chief, is this all coming out from, where's the money coming out?
So the previous one, it is coming out of the new fire station budget, the 18 sets, and then this 35 sets, this comes out of our lifeline account. This is a little bit more than what we normally spend, so we'll have to look at the options here, yes.
This supplier is priced comparable to the one we used to use?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a little bit higher, but even that, Casco Industries, even their prices have gone up as well. So I did have them go ahead and give me a bid to see where they were, and they were very comparable. We did make a change. One of the things that FireDex offers that Globe does not is there's some extra protection in the knees and the cuffs of these particular pants, and then also in the cuffs and the pockets for the jacket. The reason we went ahead and made that change is because it wasn't offered in the Globe, and that's where we tend to have a lot of damage to our bunker gear. So we're always having to send them in to get repairs, and then they have to get re-inspected, reevaluated before they get sent to us. We feel like by adding that extra protection, which was not an option to us before, we can cut a little bit of cost on the repairs for the life of the bunker. So.
Any other questions? Go ahead and move on to item 12, approval to purchase 20 portable radios.
Okay. So this is consider the purchase of 20 portable radios. This is for the new fire stations. This will outfit the fire truck, the ambulance, also our 2nd Battalion, 2nd Division, Division 2. This will give them portable radios. It will also give us a few spares. Inevitably, we get on the scene and we may have some radio trouble or damage to a radio, and so we always, our battalion chief and our division captain always carry extra spares. That way, if they do have a damaged portable or portable that it's not linking correctly or needs to be recalibrated or whatever it may be, they can quickly get a new radio to that individual, so they're not, obviously, for us, that's our lifeline when we're inside of a fire, inside of an incident, inside of a happening incident, so we have to have good communications, and that's what these portable radios do for us. This will be through Motorola Solutions. This will be a DIR purchase co-op. Total purchase for this is $221,047.45.
Chief, where's this money coming from?
So this one, because it is for the new fire stations, will come out of the new fire station budget as well.
Council, any questions?
This is for fire station 6 and 9?
So most of these go to station 9. 6 obviously is being, we're moving the current radios, but we are adding, 2nd Battalion and 2nd Division captain at that fire station, and so we need to purchase radios for them and then a few spares, so when they do respond upside down.
Any other questions, comments, answers? Okay, Chief, we can go ahead and move on to item 13, consider approval purchase of 8 MSA and G1 CBAs.
Okay, so these are our SCBAs that will be placed on the fire truck and the ambulance. These SCBAs obviously are, again, necessity for our firefighters when they're in any kind of IDLH atmosphere, any fires, hazmat scenes, any of those things. This particular G1 unit is the same as we currently have, so when we're talking about parts replacement, annual testing, connection to our current face masks, this will work in conjunction with those. So we purchased the same ones. We did have to purchase a little bit extra on this one because there has been an NFPA change to the SCBA's as the RIT holes that I have in here. That's something that we had to add. We still have to be able to, for RIT is Rapid Intervention Team. So if an individual goes down because their SCBA is failing, they can't get oxygen or air inside the fire, then we can quickly connect to them. And so from one firefighter to another, connect to them, they both share a bottle. This current system that we have is no longer available because of the NFPA changes. So we had to purchase a little bit extra hoses to make them work with our current SCBA system. It's something we're going to have to look to in the future when we're making a new purchase for SCBAs that our current ones are not going to function with the new standard that's out there. This is going to be through, this purchase will be through Casco. Casco Industries, and they are by award. The total purchase is for $69,240, and this will come out of the new fire station budget as well.
It's per 9, correct?
I'm sorry?
Station 9?
Station 9, yes, sir.
Council, any questions, comments?
So that I won't have to ask Ms. White what these mean, what's an SCBA?
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
Oh, I knew she knew, but I didn't want to whisper.
It's kind of like scuba, but scuba's underwater.
Okay.
Okay, Chief, we're going to go ahead and move on to, that's it on that one?
Yes.
We're going to move on to item 14, consider approval for purchase of a Panther air compressor.
Yes, so this is for the new Fire Station 6, this is our air compressor that helps us fill the SCBAs, the SCBA bottles. Our current one is aging, it's almost 20 years old, so we're looking at replacing it when we do make the move. We will be keeping the old one as a backup unit and continue to get it serviced. This particular Panther unit is very similar to the current unit that we have. The current unit we have is a Scott brand. It's no longer in existence, but this Panther company has bought them out, so it's very similar. So we still work with it with the SCBA bottles that we have. It'll be very familiar for our group that's going to be using it and working with it. This is a 20 horsepower 3-phase compressor. It will be again at the new Fire Station 6 once that is completed. It will have 2 fill stations, which for us is very vital. We can fill bottles as quickly as possible. We do go through bottles very quickly on the scene. This purchase is through Cap Fund Account 4, Fire Station 6. It is going to be through Hoyt Breathing Air. That is who does all of our current compressors, because we also have one at Station 5 that's a mobile unit. But they also do the service and testing and annual air breathing checks for all of our systems. So this purchase will be through them. They are sole source for Panther air compressors. This will be for a total of $58,578. This does include installation, and then they'll also do air quality checks for them before we put through the service.
Council, any questions? Any comments? Chief, anything else on this item?
No, sir.
It's a heck of a Christmas, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We move on to item 15, consider amending City Code Chapter 1 relating to board commissions and committees. City Secretary Mulder.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This amendment is just a couple of housekeeping items. There was a duplication of in attendance with the Parks and Recreation, so we're just deleting one of them. So it will be consistent and it will be under the Parks Department. And there was some added language to the Odessa Development Board Corporation section, which it just includes the Economic Development Act to include it. Minor changes.
Norma, that was never put on there. Was it requested by ODC, or we just did not have that additional language?
The language was not ever in the ordinance, so we're adding.
So what are we adding specifically? Purpose of Odessa Thunder Corporation is to promote, develop industrial manufacturing and private bringing in new jobs. And other proposed allowed and economic development act. So does this broaden the spectrum from what we have now? Why is it necessary?
Mayor, there's conditions in the act that you can use under economic development to fund some projects. And so we just want to make sure that that language encompasses those, like the housing and infrastructure grant. So it's in compliance with the Economic Development Act of the law.
So this would be beyond the core principles of transportation, manufacturing, and warehouse?
Yes.
And that was requested by?
Was there a request?
No.
We just.
No. When we looked at it, I think those are changes we made to be in compliance with the Economic Development Act for.
Okay, so I guess what Councilmember Willis is, so if there was no request, what preempted the change and why now, why wasn't it included at the beginning?
I don't know why it wasn't included in the beginning, but we do want to encompass the full act when we make these changes, because we do have like a housing and infrastructure grant with the Odessa Development Corporation that's listed in the local government code. So that's what that would be incorporating. But we can take that language out.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't prompted by anything, so that later on somebody
There was
come back
nothing
and
that
says
prompted
it's
it. We just reviewed it in line with what we do with the Odessa Development Corporation.
Does council need time to review it and ask more questions before we put it on the agenda? Was council comfortable with the language and language change?
I'm good with it.
Any other discussion? Thank you very much for that presentation. Quick and fast.
And now it'll be long.
Now we're going to move on to item 16, discuss amendments to Article 4-17, game rooms and video gaming ordinances. Monique.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. So this item was placed on the agenda per request from a few council members who wanted to discuss the issue. I'll begin with an update for you. Since you last discussed game rooms in October, Ector County has amended their game room ordinance with many of the proposed recommendations taken from Mayor Javier Hoven's January letter to Judge Debbie Hayes. Natasha Brooks and I have since met with Mr. Lee McClendon, who is the Ector County attorney, regarding the feasibility of an interlocal between the city of Odessa and Ector County. In the meeting, we discussed the importance of this topic to both entities and exchanged ideas and drafts of a proposed interlocal. Natasha Brooks and I have also met with Chief Mike Gerke and Deputy Chief Robert DePorto to discuss the feasibility of an interlocal and new or continued strategies to address illicit game rooms and their adverse secondary effects. We are still in negotiations currently with Mr. McClendon to produce a finalized draft of this interlocal for your presentment. Some council members have expressed an interest in amending the city's ordinance while negotiations continue with Ector County. You'll notice that in your packet today, I don't have any proposed amendments. You did discuss this in October. It was legal's recommendation back then that we pause. We researched the topic a little bit more. We have since done so. And so today I'm here to take direction from your discussion or answer any questions you may have.
Council, let's start over here to my right with Council Mata. Do you have any comments or direction?
So, yeah, are we, so we're not taking out any of the language of the amendments that we made, correct? Like the distance, they have to be from 1,500 feet, or are we going back to 300 feet, or and if so, why? Or?
So currently our ordinance says 300 feet. And that's what the ordinance is today. Legal's not proposing a change to the distance, and I can give you a rundown of recommended changes if you would like to make any changes that legal thinks are safe avenues for you to begin with. So we can do that, but right now I'm not proposing any recommendations to the distance requirement or some other zoning requirements.
When you say safe, are you talking about what, risk of lawsuits or?
Correct.
Which is the reason that we started the conversation with the county in the first place, and I think the distance requirement was one of the main reasons that we wanted to have a conversation with the county regarding an interlocal agreement.
Did the county agree to the distance to
The county's adopted a 1,500. The thing is that in the letter proposed, what the council agreed and we submitted in the letter was a 1,500 setback from residential, from one game room to the other, for hospitals, nursing homes, schools, and et cetera. We also proposed a change of hours of operation, days of operation, to be able to also do that. We also proposed no electronic locking mechanisms, no members only. We also we recommended that there be no tinting or covering of windows to be able to introduce a site plan with exits. Trying to remember if there's anything else I'm missing. I know that at one point we did discuss one of the patterns under the SOBs is also a light to heavy industrial. And so, but that was not put into the county for the reason that they don't have that type of zoning. I'm not sure if I missed anything else on that.
There was one more, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Limits on how many machines within the actual game room establishments.
Yeah, we do have some that have as upwards of 7. So those were, and so the county did adopt those. And what they did additionally adopt is that they set a requirement of 50 game rooms in the county. They did have that. No more than 50. And so I had asked about where did that come from. That was, I think the county had put that in place. And so currently, I think here in the city of Odessa, we have 27, and I'm not sure what the county has. But that is the county ordinance as of right now.
Correct. So, and the interlocal that we're discussing, that we're working with the county, would be for the county, or for the city, excuse me, to enforce the county's ordinance here within the city limits. And so that's the interlocal that we're currently working on. Now, today's topic is regarding any amendments to our own ordinance that you would like to make.
Okay. Well, okay. Go ahead. Well, I don't know why we want to jump through that hoop. Unless it's going to take you guys a year to get a little local agreement in place. If it's going to be done timely, then I can't see the reason to go through all the exercise. Yeah, no, about the change in hours. I just should wait and adopt it or do the interlocal and go that way. If it's not going to take you, when it's taking so long anyway. Here we are October, here we are still yakking about it. So, I mean, it's not that complicated of a subject in my mind. So I'd rather just get the interlocal done, rather than by the time we get our orders done, get it adopted, then we do open ourselves up for litigation in the meantime, and so why we want to do that? I mean, we're going to be open to litigation anyway, we not know that, but at least we have the strength of the county ordinance statewide to fall back on. That's just my thoughts.
Will an interlocal agreement in any way stop us from making changes to the city codes? That if what Mr. Thompson's saying, and we want to make the changes first.
No, that won't in any way stop us from making any changes that the city.
Well, our ordinance will go away, right?
No.
Our ordinance will go away and be replaced with this ordinance. With their local agreement.
Only if we adopt.
We'll circle back to that. That is a good question. We'll circle back to that.
I think that's my confusion is, the county has adopted theirs, but that is only for the unincorporated areas of the county. So our ordinance is still quite lenient, and why would we not go ahead and go and change our ordinance to comply with what the county is doing?
Do you want to go ahead and speak to that, or Sasha want to speak to that?
Yes, I can. Well, currently, and this is something that I've discussed before, there is pending litigation for cities and game rooms. And so that is something that, there are some things that the city would be preempted from making changes, arguably preempted, whereas the county has that wide express latitude under the state statutes.
So
For
we're
example,
gonna
the
be-
distance.
We have given the county all of the ammunition to get the game rooms a little more under control so that they can move into
So
the
they can
city
proliferate
and we
the
can
city
take care
in
of
the
it.
meantime.
That's what it is. And then with the interlocal, that's obligating Chief Gerke's personnel
It takes a long
to go to the county to help them with their enforcement, and we're gonna end up with more game rooms in the city.
So
If the interlocal agreement doesn't get done quickly, that's where I was going.
But the interlocal, what
Still
does
won't.
the interlocal
If I may,
Oh.
there's only actually a small portion of the county's new ordinance that applies to the unincorporated areas of the county. The other portions of it would apply to the entire county. And so when we're talking about the number of game rooms outside or in the unincorporated areas of the county, that's that specific provision. The rest of the amendments and the provisions that they made would apply to Ector County overall, which includes the city.
Okay, so then, would, kind of getting back to Steve's question, so would our ordinance be dissolved and Odessa would only go under Ector County's ordinance? Because otherwise it's a conflict in the ordinances.
So legal's recommendation would be to maintain the ordinance and just enforce the county's ordinance, not the city's ordinance.
But if we maintain our ordinance, it's gonna tell them 300 foot, and the county's saying 1,500, so which one do we go with?
Well, at that point, if we were able to get the interlocal agreement, the interlocal agreement allows for the police department and other city departments to enforce the county's ordinance
Within
the city limits. Yes.
Specifically with constables. I mean, constables,
Well, that's under Ector County, so that's up to
Right.
Ector County, that wouldn't be up to us. But in terms of city personnel, that would be the Odessa Police Department, that would be planning and zoning staff that review the applications, that would be the Odessa Police Department, their record staff that does the game room permit administrations, it would require a site plan, all of those things. So not even just talking about enforcement, but actually the administration of game room permits as well.
So on our interlocal, and talking about, I'll say police and fire, but I don't know, it may be on Chief Gerke's personnel. They will still just be remaining in the city, because it was my understanding that Sheriff Griffiths, that was his plea to the county, that he was gonna have some help with enforcement outside the city limits. And I thought, Mayor, that you had told them that the police department would be able to assist.
And so that would be the interlocal. So the interlocal, I do not have the exact state statute that it falls under. However, it does allow for the Odessa Police Department, whose jurisdiction is typically within the city limits, under creation of a task force. And we've discussed this at length with both Ector County and with Odessa Police Department. This would expand their jurisdiction, so allow them to address issues in the county under this specific agreement.
Would that be vice versa, if they chose to?
Yes.
Okay, we want to expand on the definition of task force. The word itself in it, because when you task force, they're gonna understand one thing, but it's another.
Right, and that was a concern that was expressed as well. It's not going to be a number of Odessa Police Department officers that are specifically assigned to game rooms and only do game rooms. We're just copying the language from the state statute that authorizes this type of agreement between law enforcement entities. And it talks about the creation of a task force, but it's not going to be a dedicated task force. It's going to be, of course, they will work together and figure it out, but it's not going to be a more formalized task force. We're just copying the language under the state statute.
It's a term of art, is
So
what it
it would
is.
allow any officer to be able to go out in the county and enforce it, right?
Our
It's not
interlocal
gonna
can
just
do
be a
that.
set-
Yes. Mhm.
So how soon do you foresee the interlocal being ready?
That's a great question that I do not have an answer to. I know that
So we have drafted an interlocal. Mr. McClendon has also drafted an interlocal, which Natasha and I did present to Odessa Police Department. And I think if we can somewhere meet in the middle between the two of them, hopefully within the next month or two.
If it's gonna be that long, then I'm switching gears.
Yeah.
If that's gonna take that long, I
And we
mean,
don't know.
because that's one of the questions I'd asked Natasha earlier, can we put a hold on the other applications, or are we waiting to get this done?
That's
And I don't wanna wait any longer.
That's a question that I'm going to interject here now. So, with the county's ordinance already in place, what is, we need to know what the count is in the county. Because under my understanding of their ordinance, didn't put a cap on 50, it's inclusive of the incorporated city of Odessa, since the city of Odessa is within.
No, my understanding is that the 50 is limited to the
Just the outside county.
unincorporated areas of the
This is an
county.
amendment we have to consider as far as the city of Odessa, because we're at 29, and these guys are preempting this. I'll tell you, I was up here on Friday, met with you, met with legal. That guy that I talked to, the guy that I said I commented on his red shoes, he was here for a game room. He walked down and met with the real people that was actually with the game room, where there's 2 Vietnamese. I took the license plate and ran and found who this gentleman is.
And what's he trying to do?
Open a game room on 42nd and Dixon. So the thing is that right now, we're open, and we know this is an open discussion. And this, the permitting of these game rooms have access to every type of zoning we have in the city. I asked about restricting them. I was, told that we could do that, we could make that amendment, we open ourselves for litigation. And so there is no mechanism we have right now to be able to protect, and we're seeing the proliferation just go and go and go and go. Since the last time we spoke, we're at 25, now we have 2 additional. The other question that I have on the interlocal will be this, is right now we have 2 systems of accepting money on the permit. Okay, attending, what the county did is they have theirs at $1,000 per meeting, and they have a different mechanism that we have. So in doing the interlocal, we're just talking about a task force of interjurisdictional between law enforcement. Where are we on the money as far as permitting? Does anybody in the council aware of what the type of fees that the city is collecting? Okay. This is something that the council needs to know. This is a big question, because the thing is that in the interlocal, what happens? Does it go into the sheriff department? Does it go into PD? Does PD keep what's going on now? Does the sheriff keep going what's going on now? How's that gonna work out?
And that's what we're trying to meet in the middle on. Our proposal from the city would maintain some authority, and we would give a recommendation to Ector County to grant or deny that permit. However, like I said, we're still negotiating the exact, any fee sharing, any administration, the sharing of any responsibilities for the game room permit processing. We're talking about background checks, we're talking about planning and zoning approving a site plan. All of the permit administration duties also have to be divvied up and decided upon.
Which right now, that doesn't exist. There is no revenue share.
No.
No. The county's operating under their ordinance and we're operating under ours.
And Mayor, we would count on the council to give us direction with those type of things, because we cannot make those decisions.
Right, correct. So the thing is under this estimation, the last I asked, when I did an analysis of what the city has taken in, and these changes would preempt a loss of over 70% of fees to the city, is what was my best guess estimation. One of the things is about the fees that is assessed in the game rooms, it's supposed to go back to the enforcement. When we have 27, you're gonna question whether there's enforcement and to what extent. Now, there are regulations. When I got into office, I did reach out to several members out throughout the state to help me understand game rooms. One of the experts in the state is a mayor out of down in South Texas, Javier Villalobos. He is a lawyer, and he is one of the crafted what statewide, what we can and cannot do after I proposed what we're doing, and I think we crafted our ordinance. What's the case that is right now in litigation out of Fort Worth?
City of Fort Worth v. Riley.
Okay. And so we kind of mimic that. Under those things they're saying is that it's not a good thing what we have. And so this is why I had asked for council to be briefed on what it is, our actual financials. It's taken me quite some time to get those financials, and it started back in July. And so it concerns me. And so the thing is that this is a big hurdle for us of what we're gonna do. The timing, which way we go with interlocal, or we go into adoption of our amendments, and going back to Councilmember Mata about, hey, you know, are we still gonna adopt those? The recommendation of the, well, not a recommendation, there is an option for us to keep the ordinance as is right now, which will consist of what we have, 300, very lenient, as you said. One thing that I not considered is that City of Odessa is in Midland County. And so I made a call to Judge Johnson and actually stated that fact. And so there's two rules of thought here. We're you know, are we going to be worried about Midland County, City of Odessa, or are we going to be worried about City of Odessa, Edgar County? Talking to Johnson, they don't have an issue, they don't have a problem, and they don't have an ordinance. And I don't foresee that even if we pull back our ordinance and just, you know, go about the enforcing the county ordinance. But in the end, it's going to come about fees and who's going to keep jurisdiction of that. And so that's something that I just don't see a way of not going around and not discussing that. You know, to what length and extent is the question. So I tell you, I have very perplexed with this for the reason is that I'm disturbed about, you know, the information that I have and I have found. And well, I just know one thing. In the end, citizens want this curtailed, they want to pull back, they're frustrated, I know I'm frustrated. Walking out of the legal and running into a person and then knowing that, you know, this person is in there as a front and the real people are down there, finding out who this real person is, where he lives, and how much this person has invested in this community, it's disturbing. And so I know this council wants to go action. And I know that one of the concerns of the legal is to make sure that we stay out of we're not going to get sued. I'm under the impression we're going to get sued regardless. And from my standpoint, I want to pull that ordinance. I don't want to leave. The thing is that somebody's going to come in here, they're going to apply, they're going to sit there and say, well, we're enforcing the county, but the city says 300. The city says I can operate, you know, currently right now we have 24 hours. I can be 300 from this one and this one. We do have to grandfather what's in existence, but they're going to grandfather, they're still going to be applied to the 300. And that's a big concern for everybody. You know, I'm just not buying it. I want that ordinance pulled, but this is just me, and I think that's our best.
And Mayor, that's kind of what the discussion is today. We weren't going to do a presentation. I think you and Councilmember Thompson wanted this on for discussion purposes. And our duty is just to inform you of the law, and I think we've done that. We've discussed the game room several times, and so what we need today is direction. And whatever, if you want to rescind the ordinance and adopt an interlocal agreement, that's fine. But we do need some type of direction because, you know, we're trying to work with the county office.
So you want to pull, in Victoria, the one that you brought over to the council, right? The city of Victoria is enforcing the counties, and they don't have a city.
They do not have a city ordinance.
And it's workable.
They don't. Actually, the Victoria County ordinance restricts them to the unincorporated areas of the county only.
Yes, they have.
And so the city of Victoria rescinded their ordinance entirely because the county ordinance put them outside of the city limits anyway, so.
So we would, if we rescinded ours, everything's grandfathered as far as the 27 as today. Right.
Well, if we rescinded ours, I guess, so if we rescinded our ordinance, they would still fall under the county ordinance, and there are some specific grandfather provisions in there. Give me a second. It's right here, sorry. So, the required distance from churches, schools, residential neighborhoods, or other video game establishments to 1,500 feet. That does include a grandfather clause for pre-existing game rooms. However, if their license expires, gets suspended, or revoked, then the no new license shall be granted for that particular location, and they must follow the new distance requirement.
Well, there would be no, because there's no ordinance, and so they would be regulated.
This is under the county. This is under the county, and that provision.
Yeah, see what I'm talking about?
I know where you're going.
But if we have no ordinance.
It goes under the county, because we're part of the county.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
City's part of the county.
when that was first proposed, and Randy, I'm gonna pick on you for a second, didn't we talk about restricting game rooms to light industrial? What was it?
It's, I have it.
Industrial, light industrial, doesn't even seem like it was commercial. I mean, you know, it really, it did put them in.
Back in October, the amendment that was on the table was game rooms shall only be considered in existing light industrial or heavy industrial districts. That's what was on the table back in October, and I do have a copy of the October amendments if you'd like to see those.
Yeah,
The proposed amendments.
See, and I guess that would be more strict than what the county has, because the county's just saying 1,500 feet from each other, from churches, schools, residentials.
Right, so the county doesn't have that zoning.
Right, and so that, if we did that, what we were originally looking at, then that would make us more stringent than the county and might open us up for more litigation, do you think?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
That specific provision.
Well, I liked it, but I guess we might not be able to keep it.
And did you want the amendments that were proposed back in October? They're outlined in red.
Sure.
You'd like to see this?
And I think y'all have a copy
We have a copy.
of that.
Oh, yeah, but it's in that box.
Yeah, who wants to go do that?
Mayor, what are you saying with the number of current game rooms?
27 in South City, Odessa.
Thank you.
So Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
what is it that you
So, how I'm understanding this one, let's go back to October. We proposed amendments of 1,500 feet separation from door to door in game rooms. For residents, hospitals, schools, nursing homes, et cetera, et cetera. Then we changed the hours of operation, locking mechanism, no members only, no tinting, no covering, site plans, and then access to personnel to, for review, for compliance, having the actual, this is a cash business, so right now there's no records on site to be made available for review. And so leveling the playing ground for enforcement. And so we can make those amendments, but we're subject to litigation. We're subject to litigation regardless. And maybe I'm incorrect, but how I understand it is that if we leave the ordinance as is, we wind up covering the part of Odessa, city of Odessa, inside Midland County. And so more or less not leaving a no man's zone. The other is, how I understand it, what guarantees us that we're not getting into a tit for tat, when someone comes in here, because look, the majority of the people that are applying for these game rooms are from New York, Brooklyn, North Carolina. They're not from here. Now, there are walking men and people that there's names on there, some people are local. So obviously, they're not the owners. Rarely do you ever see an owner get fined or get in trouble or lose a business. People are being placed or being paid. And so that just is a revolving door. And so the guarantee is right here is that, under my understanding, we leave the ordinance intact. We have two ordinances that conflict with each other. Now, I'm being told, well, no, we'll still be able to enforce the county ordinance, but there'll be an argument that says, but the city says this, and the city says this, and the city says that. That is, an ordinance is a law. So you have to follow one or the other. And the thing is that everyone's gonna follow the path of least resistance. That's my simple understanding, and is simply why I disagree with the attack. But, I'm frustrated because it's taken so long.
Oh,
But I
yes.
also know we're trying to cross every T and every dotted I, and we're losing the race.
Yeah.
And I hear about this constantly every single day. And so trying to find a solution, we can get this out front, get it going, and we wind up addressing the proliferation. Right here, right now, we just not seeing all we're hearing is delay.
And when you talk about proliferation, I mean, just back from 2019 to now, 3 months into 2022, it's not even a full year. This has been a 59% increase in the number of cameras. And if we say, I mean, 2021, the current revenue, the total revenue was $625,000. In 3 months, we're at $555,000 already. They're just exploding. I mean, it's just a growing number. If we wait another 2 months for this interlocal agreement, I mean, it's just, like you said, we're just behind the curve on this. It's just, we're never gonna catch up.
Yes.
So if we amended our ordinance just to comply the wording in the county, like the 1,500 foot, I don't know, if there were any others that were different. If we did that, and you guys could still work on the interlocal, that would be a personnel issue and all. Could that satisfy itself? Because the city of Odessa is still going to take care of itself on permitting.
Well, to be clear, Councilmember White, if you amend our ordinance to match the counties, there's no need for an interlocal. And so the interlocal was to utilize the county's wide latitude, their wide authority in this area. But if you choose to, you can amend our own ordinance, and then we have those laws on our books, and there wouldn't be a need for any interlocal agreement with the
It's not
county.
part of interlocal, the task force though,
Yeah.
where the OPD can go out and enforce the ordinance in the county and vice
Let them
versa.
do theirs, we'll do ours.
That is, yes, that is, but
So we could still have that, can we still have that part of the interlocal agreement if we amend our ordinance to match the counties?
that's up to your discretion, yes.
You're saying an interlocal agreement just for,
Just the task force.
just for that?
Just giving you multiple jurisdictions.
Right, I got
Monique, I have
Not more or less personnel immunities.
a couple of questions. So if we adopted the county, if we enter into a local agreement, interlocal agreement with the county, that will allow us to enforce the county's ordinance inside the city limits, correct?
Correct.
But
Oh,
that-
okay.
Yes. Yes.
We're gonna have claim.
But we would also, your reference to there would be a permitting process,
Correct.
that is only under the city's ordinance. Is there a conflict in having us enforce the county ordinance, yet we are required to do certain things to allow the businesses to come in, like a permitting process that would be inherent of something we do within the city and not in the county?
Correct. So within the interlocal, what we, the city and the county would work out, there might need to be some amendments to the city's ordinance. And so other county city models that follow this interlocal method, there are some cities that just left their ordinance on the books. For example, Fort Worth is currently in litigation. That ordinance is still on the books. But now they have an interlocal with their county. Other city-county models have rescinded their ordinance entirely, like Victoria, and then some have just amended certain portions of their city ordinance to reflect the agreement between the city and the county. So there's a number of different options available, and I believe that this is something that legal has provided, so we just need direction on where we're going with this.
And one final question on the enforcement side. If the city is enforcing the county's ordinance within the city, I get that. I mean, certainly the police department would deal within the city, but that would not require or provide for the city to enforce it out of the county, correct?
The second interlocal, that is the task force the creation of the task force, that's what would allow OPD to enforce it out in the county.
If it chose to.
If they choose.
Right, yeah,
If they chose to.
they chose to, there's no
Correct,
mandate.
there's no mandate,
Right.
right. It's just for the sharing of resources between law enforcement entities.
If need be.
If need be, because right now they're doing their own and we're doing our own.
Right.
That means, so.
So is the county wanting us to, I mean, do they have a mechanism in place for when a new business is, like a new game room is going to open to collect a fee or to give the requirements for that building or anything?
Yes, because even prior to the amendments that they just recently made earlier this year, they did have a permitting scheme.
Oh, okay.
And so I believe there's a particular person, is what I was told, within the Ector County Sheriff's Office that is.
Okay.
is
So
responsible.
they can take care of their own on that?
But there's no site visits or anything in that nature, just to review.
I can't speak to what the county does, but in my conversation with Mr. McClendon, he did say that he talked about someone being the game room person. And so they were the ones who knew about when we inquired about how many applications the county had pending, we were forwarded to this one person. So I can't say that he or she is the only person, but this is the person that they refer to as the game room person.
Help me understand what our process is, because I've asked, and I'm still not clear cut. So can you speak to, is anybody here in this room and in this chamber can speak to it?
I don't know that legal.
I don't think legal would.
Yeah.
Randy's zone.
What process you refer to, Mayor?
You're talking about application and permitting, correct?
No. This is what I'm asking.
A new game room, one game room.
I'm walking up, I want to open a game room, just like, that guy saw on Friday.
Right
He
now,
had a site permit, he came out of your office.
yeah, right now he is governed by what's called commercial amusement indoor.
Commercial what?
Commercial amusement indoor. And that's basically pool halls, billiard halls, taekwondo halls, and game rooms.
Basically, they can go anywhere in the
And
city.
they can go retail and less restricted right now. They have no separation from other game rooms. They have no separation from churches, schools, hospitals, residential districts, or anything like that. Really, about the only thing that we can really govern these folks is, let's say, the retail and less restricted, and we have a fairly restrictive parking regulation for these guys. But that's really about all we can
Well,
do.
that parking thing has not really worked.
No, there's, and there's ways that they can, for lack of a better word, manipulate that.
So we have
leases and things like that. So it is very lenient right now.
So Randy, though, if I come in, I'm wanting to open a game room, I have to check with you guys for zoning, and then I have to get a building permit or a certificate of occupancy permit. And once that's approved, that could generate inspections from the fire department or whomever.
Right, or.
And depending if there's construction, then it's the building inspectors will
Yeah,
come
and they
in.
also have to get a licensing, game room license from BD.
Yeah, and they're submitting their site plan, their building plan and site plan.
Well, they don't have to submit a site plan, they just have
That's
to
something that
submit a floor
we
plan to BD
put in,
for
we don't
a
have
license.
That's how the.
But they would show their parking, that would just be,
Don't go through the process.
Well, what we put on there is they have to have a certain number of parking spaces,
okay.
and then show that they have it. But as far as approving the site plan, there's no mechanism to do that.
And the site plan amendment, that was proposed back in October, so that's gonna be
I see.
redlined in your copy there.
Is that the county's?
No, I don't believe the county, I don't believe that the county has
I
that.
thought they put something as far as the site.
I may be mistaken.
I'm pretty sure that, I thought they had accepted, that's something we proposed.
Yes.
I don't recall seeing it.
I outlined all of the amendments here, it's not in the list.
See, that's another issue. One of the things is that you don't have site plans that run into it. And if there's no site plans, there's no inspection from inspections, things of that nature. There's no requirement for ANSEL systems. And so occupancy, right now, who inspects these sites? Is it OFR?
And OFR can inspect those for compliance.
But they still, at this point, they can't, and even PD can't get in.
Yeah, they can, because any business, the fire marshal's division does have access to, and they inspect them for compliance with the current code.
How do they get in when they have a locking mechanism?
That's been the problem.
That's been a problem.
I think the ones we have gone into, Mayor, we've simply just gone to the door and they've allowed us to come in.
Yeah. You knock.
Well, I'm not opposed to, I'll go ahead and just put it out there, I'm not opposed to, changing and adopting the amendments that we chose to back in October. And then, but in the end, it's where we're gonna wind up in conflict is the mechanism of the permit. The amount of the premise permitting is a big question. We have several ways of wind up where we pick up fees. We have a premise application. We have a one for machines, that is a dollar amount. We have one for employee tag, and then there's two for employees, am I correct?
One's the tag and one's the tax on the tag, is that correct?
Can you explain, okay, the tag is what they wear, but what is the employee tag? Tax, is that what you said?
It's a tax on the tag, I believe is how it's worded.
What, can you explain that one? Because I'm perplexed on that one. Can anybody explain what
Do
the?
you have that? Copy can come forward.
So, Mr. Bonanzo,
Yes, sir.
is your department in charge of collecting the fees?
Yes, we are.
Okay, can you explain the categories and the columns on that?
Yes, so she's handing out the applications as they come in. Anyone that's interested will start this application process and pay the fee. They'll start paying the fee. We send them, along with the application, you'll see the process in which they have to visit Randy, they have to visit inspections, they have to visit the police department. Once they've complied with all of the process, then they bring back the entire thing, and at that point, that's when we'll start issuing the numbers, the tags for the machines. Now, the machines have to be specific, they cannot move, the tag has to remain with the machine. It's just a very, so if law enforcement goes out there and to do some sort of inspection, or the machine should be on the site plan with that number where it is, so they can't bring any other machines in. And if they do, they're in violation. There is employee, the employee have to fill out an application. You'll see it within the application. They have to provide a picture. They have to pay tags for the tags per machine. And it's a number, and we keep up with the numbers and the machine. There is the application fee, $2,500, and then taxes that they have to pay. I can't remember what the last column was, but it's all within that application. And that's what starts the process. They come in and you say, okay, here, this is what you need to do. You can't move past anything. You have to follow this specifically. Go visit inspection, go visit the police department, go visit, blah, blah, blah. So it's very well laid out. And then they come, bring it back in, and we collect the remainder of the fees.
Okay, and so after we collected the fee, the city then goes out to the site and inspects it?
They're able to. By that time, all the site visits, all the inspections have already been done. So when we issue that, the tag for the machine, they're ready to go.
Okay.
They're ready to go.
So there is, the city is able to use this resource to inspect that they're in compliance according to this
Yes.
application.
Yes.
There's no mandate in order to do so. It's just, they're able to, we have.
They're able to,
do it.
anytime they'd like to, yes.
Okay, so then we have federal tax, Texas, and Texas, federal tax ID number, Texas state ID number. So as we assess the fees on the different column and items that you had just described, is there any fees that go to the county, any fees that go to state, any fees go to state, or are they all state?
They're all state.
Okay, explain to me the line item of where that money, because understanding the statute is for enforcement. What does that, that's another question. So where is it on our line item where we can see that money?
It goes back into the general fund.
Okay.
And it has its own specific revenue account.
Yes.
And what is that called?
It's just, I think it's, fund or other fees for the game room. I don't know the account title specifically.
Can we
but
get
it's-
that, can we get that before Tuesday?
Yeah.
Also, what's the amount that we have in there? I also like to have that amount. And starting from, what date to present? If that's possible.
Okay. Well, we, of course, we'll keep it on a fiscal year revenue basis.
Okay.
So how far back do you want it?
When did this start? The ordinance is in 2013. Okay.
You want to go back to 2013?
Well, I mean, that's where it started. I mean, it's on an annual basis.
Well, we know it's growing, so I mean, but, I would think that last year, so far this year might be, anyway, I hate to make staff do that much work, but last year,
Is it too much work? Or is it a
No,
burden?
I mean, we're just gonna pull you the total for the fiscal year.
Okay.
You don't need
Okay.
it, we broke down some information that we
Okay.
gave to you.
Yeah.
You don't need all that detail back.
Right.
We can give you
Just
the
give us the
annual
annual.
Sure,
revenue
that's
amount. Yes, sir.
And that amount is just spent into general fund, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's
I mean,
just
it's
a
not like a
revenue.
cumulative account that,
Right, it's one account, all the fees go into one account.
you know, and then it's used in general fund.
For
Yes.
general fund
Okay.
activities, yeah.
Okay. So it's not gonna be all.
One of my concerns that was brought up is, I know I received,
When you,
thank you. I know I received a few phone calls, business owners complaining that they have to purchase a lockbox basically to allow, for an emergency. Not for it to go in there. So are you saying that we don't make it mandatory for game rooms?
Yeah, they're required.
They are required?
Yeah, Mr. Mata, in order to receive the CO, they have to go through the process that any person who either built or is moving a business into an existing building. And so that would elicit the appropriate building inspections as well as the appropriate fire inspections. So there are requirements associated with that.
We inspect them every year, Mr. Monroe. I mean, some of us
Every
do.
year.
You do inspect them?
We try to.
So Mayor, I'm thinking that maybe we go, and this is my thought, so what it's worth, I think we go back to our original amendments and, you know, what, I think what our original amendments will do, because we say light industrial in parts of the city, you know, we'll shove, if they want to come into the city, then we're gonna maybe shove these out into the county as, any new ones that come in. The only problem I have with, I was reading the changes, and the only one I have, Natasha, that confuses me is, I'm on page 8, thank you for numbering the pages. I appreciate that. Is on the top of the page on 4A, we say 1,000 feet of another gaming institution, okay? And then on B, we say the location of any video gaming establishment hereby prohibited within 600 feet of another, so which is it, 600 or 1,000?
When you want to change it both to 15?
I would, I'm just saying, those two kind of.
So this was a discrepancy that was addressed back in October, and I think we said 1,000, or you guys said 1,000 back in October, but this is the exact copy of what was presented back in October. So that discrepancy has been noted
Okay.
and will be fixed moving forward, but that was
Yeah, okay. I figured, but I just want to make sure.
Would it be 1,000?
Be 1,000 or 15?
1,000.
15?
1,500?
Yeah,
If it
The
goes-
amended back in October was 1,000.
Yeah, but
but we can change that one. Everything else is pretty much the same.
if that's what the county
Yeah,
ordinance says,
Right. Because one of my main concerns in this whole deal is how close they're all getting together. I mean, I'll leave here tonight and go down Highway 80, and they're just coming up next door, looks like the Strip in Las Vegas.
And so to be clear with that, these proposed amendments back in October, remember that it's not going to be applied retroactively. There's going to be the grandfather, and then once their license is revoked, then they fall under the new ordinance.
Yes.
and that includes like if they should sell their business and that person has to apply for a new license, that's a new licensee. So I thought that that's what we had talked about, that they would be grandfathered at that point too.
Yes, so the grandfather language is also on page 8, it's gonna be 4D. And so it's, if the applicant, it's tied into the applicant. So yes, if the owner, if someone else comes in and applies for that, they would be under the new requirements.
So the only other change that I would suggest, and what we have here is change the December 1, 2021 course up to May 1, 2022.
May 1?
Yeah, but if we're gonna do that, if we're thinking about doing this, I'm just saying. Because right now, I'm leaning towards it, guys, I'm just leaning towards adopting our changes. Yeah,
Sure.
with those two changes we just talked about, and then making it May 1, because I mean, that's the thing I asked Natasha on Friday was, can we put a hold on any new applications? Because, when they find out we're gonna strengthen this ordinance, they're gonna flood in here, I think.
Is there any way that we can do that?
I don't believe so.
what was your question, Mark?
Is there any way to put a moratorium on incoming applications until this new ordinance
I didn't
passes?
use moratorium.
Say no.
You prettied that up.
Let me just clarify, legally, we say no, but the council can do, if the council so chooses to do that, that's something the
But
council can
legally, you
do.
would tell us no because.
Because there's a way that the businesses can run legally and within compliance of the law. And so when we put a moratorium, we're stopping legally run businesses as well.
Yeah.
And that's a question I've researched, and we can forward back to you the answer of where that authority comes
You
Mm-hmm.
from.
could go out and double check, triple check their parking spaces, make sure they have their water number. Vigorously.
Let me go back to this item D. Game rooms are exempt from the distancing restrictions upon approval of the applicant continuously owned and operated the game room at the same location and the same name prior. The applicant and the owners are different.
Could be.
And the one that changes is the applicant. The ownership stays the same, because the ownership on the majority of what owned inside the city are not in the area, they're out of state. So most times that doesn't change. You never see the owner, but with the applicant is the one that comes. So when there's a violation, there's a new applicant.
Correct.
So even if we wind up adopting this, and they find them in a violation, that we revoke, their ability to operate. Because the owner's still the same, even though the applicant changes. They still can continue to be grandfathered?
No, because it's tied into that applicant's
So it
name.
has to be, okay.
So whoever
Not
applied for the permit, that's who it is tied into. And so if that person loses their permit, another business that would come in, let's say that same location, the new applicant would fall under the new requirements. So the only way that they're grandfathered in is if the applicant, the person that's on that permit, has continuously owned and operated the game room at the same location and under the same name.
So we're gonna make sure.
So that way, that guy in New York City can,
Yeah.
just get somebody else in front of it, yeah.
An example of a violation, the most arduous and the most simple would be what?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
A violation of them to be able to operate within the city limits. What's the most egregious violation, what's the most simple? Violating the hours of operation, continuing with the lock mechanism, a violation of the law, of the penal code, drug trafficking, assault, is that fall under the permit of the game ordinance? Because one of the things is that we wind up seeing that there's continuous violations even with businesses that have alcohol.
Here comes the chief.
Uh-oh.
Here's your answer.
Well, I think, when you talk about these permits, I mean, we do get narcotics out of some of these game rooms, but they're not responsible for the narcotics, right?
Right.
According to the ordinance, they're not responsible for those things.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we've looked at and we've been successful with on the flip side is nuisance abatement. Now imagine that, you have a guy that owns a building who's renting this space to a game room, and there continuously is issues with that game room, then you go back to that owner and you notify that owner, look, this happens. So at some point, nuisance abatement is going to kick in.
Okay.
So you can do that, but those things take a long time. And the two times we filed that, we have to file through the county attorney's office. We had boxes of violations. We're talking, and those were both bars that we filed those nuisance abatements on. And we had boxes and boxes and boxes of violations. So it's just a long-term thing.
Okay. Go ahead and answer your question. Thank you, sir.
And the answer to your question there is also on page 9. So that's page 9 and 10 talk about activities from the applicants that would render their license revoked or not valid anymore. So those continue on to page 10.
Yeah. My final question is here, do you want to put in, did we put in the limitation of how many machines within a facility at 50? I don't think that's going to be in this October.
No, that was not. That specifically came from research we found in other ordinances after.
So that has to be added. The other one is,
Well, yeah, because it also depends on their square footage, the floor plan of how many machines they can have versus, what do you think? I mean, you'd hate to say you can't have more than 50 and they've got a 200 square foot room.
How much room did one machine take? Randy?
You'd also have to look up what the occupancy load is for that building, because a person takes up.
Randy, come on up.
Get your exercise, Randy.
That's the way, in my mind, that's the way to tie it.
Right.
Yeah.
So many machines per occupancy.
Yeah, you would have a certain occupancy load.
It wouldn't be one set number.
No, it'd be different for every
Yeah,
location.
because each location, you've got a different amount of floor area. It will allow only a certain amount of people, and in fact, would be just probably one person per machine, so it would be a different. And if you were gonna do that, you would limit it, say, no more than that per, whatever number you decide per location, but that would be based upon the occupancy load of that location.
Is Randy, am I correct on, like, if I wanted to open a game room and I come in and I bring you a floor plan, and it's showing all of my games, all of my gaming equipment, any tables or chairs, whatever, then you guys establish the occupant load based on
Square footage of
workable.
that building, or that floor area.
Yeah, but if the machines are fixed, then you have to deduct that. If it's like fixed seating and fixed items like a bar or whatever. I mean, I know they don't serve alcohol, but, a soda bar.
Yeah.
Distribution of consumption.
Yeah, and so that can cut down that occupant load anyway. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it, it's tied to occupancy, tied to the number of machines to occupancy. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but the codes, the building official, his codes will determine an occupant load. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So we have a check and balance there.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's a formula that's, in an established building code of how to do that.
Right. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That means it'll be different for every building. So if somebody shows up at the size of that county coliseum,
Yeah. But if they've got a little bitty building and they cram in a bunch of machines,
Yeah.
their occupant load may be really low.
Yeah.
And that's where, upon inspection, When they go in, if they're constantly exceeding that occupant load, they'll be cited, and you get into the nuisance abatement issue.
There you go.
What about capturing the amount of game rooms within the incorporated city limits? The county has 50, no more than 50 in the
Ooh, I don't
county.
even want to say.
How many do we have now?
27.
There's a bunch, that's a bunch.
28.
I say 10.
How many Mark said one more.
We'll give them one more.
I say cap it at 10.
Cabinet current or 30, I mean, I wouldn't go, I don't know. I mean, we're not wanting them in here anyway, it's not something we want in the city. This is, Midland doesn't even have one, as far as I know.
What the hell,
How the hell they do that? I mean, that's, so this is just an effort to try to clean the community up with this all.
Yes, it is. It's a response to the community outcry of the proliferation of these game rooms. And so the thing is that by putting a number, whether it's 27, 28, 30, is basically what we're sending the signal is that this is what we're willing to tolerate. And so that right there is a tricky question. I would like for, to explore that together. And then the council can then, I know.
If we're trying to get rid of.
Well, you know what, let me strike that.
Strike that.
Who said 10?
You could always say limited to 27.
Limited to 27, if we're trying to get rid of them, limited to 27, let it naturally.
We're not getting rid of them. What we're doing is re-regulating.
I know, but you will eventually, I mean, if you're limited to 27, I'm not sure you'll have a lose one, get one situation.
Just trying to keep you from being holding
Right.
court to testify.
Because the restrictions are more restricted.
Okay.
I have one other question here. We added this site plan be included for the applications. What are we doing with that? Is that where we're establishing?
Right now, we don't have a site plan that's brought in.
So what would we
bring
do
it
with
forward. What that would do is establish that they would be able to meet all the parking requirements and have everything, and we would have that on record, make it part of the file, make it part of the approval process, and it would make,
And when there's
make a more stringent regulation for these games.
When there is when there's a site visit, you can always refer to the site plan, say they're in compliance. The county has allowed a grace period for allowing the game rooms in the county to be in compliance, but they were very lenient on the time frame because they didn't want to be able to do a hardship. And so I completely disagree with that. And I don't think there's much, these game rooms are not in a hardship at all.
So Randy, the site plan also would have to, I've noticed some of these down on Andrews Highway, they've got a fence up with the parking's behind the fence. So the site plan would have to show that fence, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we could internally decide not to allow any fencing.
Yeah. And that way we could be able to say that
And
you
you
have
got-
certified that you've got that.
So we can inspect it and get around to the back. That's, yeah.
Okay.
Or our people can get around to the back.
Are we as clear as mud?
It's fine to me.
With the council, if you could take a look at the amendments that, we'll send them back out.
Okay.
Well, we'll send them back out,
Oh,
so
you
everybody
will?
can look at it, and
Yeah.
anything in addition to you would like to add, just send it to us, so we can include that for discussion and maybe approval on next Tuesday.
Yeah. And you got my one change about May 21st, May 1st.
And I just wanna, so for the our direction is not to continue with the interlocal, just amendments to our ordinance, is that
Or
correct?
do we need to continue with the interlocal for the task force?
We can always come back and.
Let's get this done first, then we can revisit it. I'll revisit that later.
I wouldn't think you'd want to spend a lot of energy and man time on the interlocal agreement, but I wouldn't give up on it either.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Any council, any further discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on. No, we're. Okay, item 17, to discuss employee compensation. City Manager, Rivera.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good afternoon. Another item for discussion and direction from the council, that is the item for us to talk about this afternoon is the topic of employee compensation. If you recall last year's budget, we suggested that we may want to revisit this at mid-year. And if you also recall, there was, I'd indicated that we might want to pay special consideration to fire and PD. The reality is that inflationary increases have really created a strain on many of our employees. And quite frankly, we see that across the country. Inflation is really higher than it ever has been in a good while. This has a particular impact on our lower paid employees. They're the ones who feel it the most, and certainly I know that we hear it from our staff every day. Cindy, Philip, and myself have had the opportunity to have discussions, particularly with Chief Alvarez and Chief Gerke, to try and get a better understanding of their unique needs for their departments. However, I would say that every department is having those same sort of struggles. As it relates to fire and PD, I want to obviously thank both Chief Alvarez and Chief Gerke for being advocates for their departments. Especially want to thank Chief Alvarez. I think Chief has gone through a lot of pains to try and look at his organization in an effort to maximize the staffing. And despite his best efforts, I mean, every day we still rely on overtime because we don't have enough firefighters or EMS folks to handle the volume of calls that we get. Same issue for Chief Gerke. The problem, I think, is emblematic of what we are seeing occurring across the country. And you know, we're just not seeing as many folks going into those professions as we once did. It's still a problem, and certainly the fact that it's happening elsewhere doesn't make it any easier on us. It's happening here. Both gentlemen struggle with attracting and recruiting and retaining staff. But again, I would say it's the same struggle for every director within the city of Odessa. I firmly believe that one of the best ways for us to try and understand what we're dealing with is to engage a thorough compensation analysis. So you, specifically the council, has all the data that you need. The compensation analysis will allow us to study this issue much closer, and in particular, study the fire department and the police department. They are unique in their nuances as to how their pay plan is structured, so those take, I think, a real hard look at when you look at those very specifically. And moreover, the study will give us the information to allow you, the council, to determine whether or not we are comparable to cities our size and certainly our market and our industry out in West Texas. You know, we would recommend engaging a third party to look at that if the council chooses to. This afternoon, what we'd like to discuss with you is a couple of options, if you will. And these would have the effect of giving something immediately to our staff, with the understanding that hopefully if we engage in a compensation analysis that we will revisit that and make any adjustments based on the data that you receive only if it's appropriate and certainly if we can afford it. So the first kind of option for us, for you guys to think about is a one-time payment. The benefit of a one-time payment is that it only is one time, it doesn't carry on. But it would have an immediate impact on our employees. And we would recommend somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $1,750. That would be applicable to everybody outside of sworn police officers and firefighters. For those individuals in the police department and the fire department, we would recommend, rather we would suggest a percentage increase of 5% for those individuals, with the understanding that if we engage in the compensation analysis, we would come back and make the appropriate adjustments when necessary and if we were able to afford those. And then the last suggestion as an option, rather, would be a 4% across the board for all city employees. That would again have the immediate effect of giving some relief to our staff immediately.
Oh,
you okay?
What was that?
With the understanding that, again, if we did the compensation analysis, we would come back and review that. And quite frankly, there's also a third option, would be is to simply do a one-time payment and then do the compensation analysis. But those are things we wanted to discuss. You know, we, as I said, we hear from our staff on a daily basis. We did say we'd revisit this at mid-year, but this is the mid-year point. Those are some of our thoughts. Cindy has provided you some dollars, and we can certainly go over those for you. But those would be the costs associated for the suggestions that we did those now. And then there's also a column that you'll see the cost that you'll have next year if you do those things.
My only concern on what you proposed, I mean, what I'm really looking at is proposal number 1, is excluding the administrative, the chiefs from police and fire. And I don't agree with that. I don't think they should be excluded. And I'm just kind of wondering what the concern was.
So the proposals in one would be excluding them from the percentage, but they would be included in the one time. So they wouldn't receive the percentage that we're proposing there, but they would receive the one-time payment as an other employee.
I'm going to use Chief Gerke's staff right off because they're, I mean, not that Chief Alvarez's isn't, but very long-term employees that, you know, if you're giving an assistant chief, are you talking about giving assistant chiefs the 5 or the 15 to 17?
The assistant chiefs would be the one time as well.
I guess kind of what I'm getting at, and that kind of shut that little part down, is you've already got compression to where you've got some people that are below the assistant chief rank that make more than the chief. And because of the mandatory overtimes and things like that. And so, you know, I understand that, not that we're getting rid of y'all, but, you know, upon the replacement, you know, it's, you know, there are options, salary options that are available for them that are not available for line personnel. But I guess what I'm getting at is I don't want it to get to where our administrators, you know, our chiefs, are not,
Getting paid less than.
yeah, they're being paid less than their
Well,
staff.
I mean, that can happen with overtime issues, especially if they're higher people. Well, one of the big issues, and they can both speak to it as well, is that their problems lie between the 0 time and 4 or 5 years, depending on which department you talk to. And that's where they have the biggest problem retaining people. And so, you know, generally when you're up to the level that assistant chiefs are, then that's pretty much where you're staying. But, I mean, it is up to y'all's preference. This was the proposal that we brought together and they are aware of
And Deidre, again, you as council has discretion to make any changes. Accept it, not accept it, or propose something different. We're here to get your input.
Can you get the figures? What would it, if we included the entire police department, the entire fire department, what would it be?
Well, and you're also talking about sworn personnel, right?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so the
civilian personnel
percentage
would follow
increase
you.
is just for actual firefighters, fire inspectors, fire corporals, sergeants, whatever. And the same thing with sworn personnel in the PD department. So administrative type people that are in PD and fire would fall under the one time.
So do you have any
As would
idea
all
what it would
other
cost?
city employees.
To include the assistant chiefs and fire chiefs.
Employees.
We can get that number.
Can. Right now, they're included in the one time that got them.
So in option 2, does that include everybody? That's everybody, right?
That's everybody.
You already did 1% for this budget year,
Yes,
We
sir.
did
for everybody.
4%.
So the inflation's eating through that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's particularly acute in our lower level employees.
We're basically, now, when we're talking about Are we talking about across the board with all the employees, or are we talking about specific, you said 0 to 4?
He's talking about years of service.
I'm talking, years of
This
service.
is across the board of the city?
No, I was just speaking to the fire and police situation. That's the, am I correct, gentlemen? That's the time frame where they lose most of their people.
0 to 5.
Yeah, if you look at our retention schedule, I mean, we lose a lot of people between 0 and 5, 0 and 4. So our goal is to get them past that 5 or 6 year mark. Because particularly in law enforcement, once you get to that point, if you go somewhere else, right, you're starting over. You're the low guy on the totem pole again, you don't want to be in that. Then you've already advanced to a point where maybe you're a detective, maybe you're a field training officer, and if you go to another department, you're starting over. And that's the point. That's an incentive to stay. No one wants to start over.
Chief, did you want to add something?
No, I mean, it's pretty much the same with fire. I mean, it's the same thing. We lose a lot of our lower employees that are nesting. You know, it's just the way it is.
Is the same time frame 0 to 4, 0 to 6?
Ours fluctuates. I mean, it's not exactly like PD's, but it's pretty much the same. And
But is the compensation, I'm sorry to disturb you, the compensation, you know, for with PD is a little bit different. The thing is that there are avenues for personnel to have certifications, am I correct? I mean,
okay, so I know what you're referring to, and that's the skill pay and incentive pay. And yes, we do have that, and I have presented that to city management. The thing about it, again, like me, I've been here a little over 29 years. Well, I'm gonna have, my certificates are gonna be up high. Not that I get any skill pay, just pretend I'm an employee that's getting skill pay. Well, I have a master's degree, I have a master firefighters, I have this, I have that, I have everything. So I'm allowed to get all this skill pay, which is good, because I've been here 29 years. You got a 5-year employee, 3-year employee, that just has EMT, that has, doesn't have an intermediate certificate yet. So their skill pay is this much, compared to somebody that's been here and has a lot more.
So you just haven't had the time to.
They haven't had the time, yeah. And whereas, and a lot of our skill pay comes out of the paramedic. We pay $675 for a paramedic. Now, I have to have 12 certificates that I have to show you. I've taken all these classes, okay, you've taken all these 12 classes, we're gonna give you $675. Well, you've only got 8 classes, I'm gonna give you $525. Well, you only got 6 classes, I'm gonna give you $325. That's how it's tiered. But the 3-year guy comes over here again, he's just an EMT. He don't get the $675. He won't get a master police officer, he won't get a master firefighter until you've been here 12 years, until you've gotten the time. And that's kind of where the skill pay is good. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's a good, the skill pay was developed when I was commissioned.
He's trying not to say it, but we
Councilwoman Wyatt was here, our marshal.
Oh, it's your fault.
She was here, and that was a retention plan.
Well, it's a good incentive for retention.
It was a retention plan. It was never designed to do anything else. What's hurt us is the base pay.
Right.
That's what's hurting us.
So is that where our concentration should be, is on the base pay and then come back and do a study on the overall?
I would say that doing something now does something for the staff.
Yes.
But definitely doing that analysis will allow us to really evaluate where fire is, for example, and PD, and to see if they're appropriate where they're at compared to other cities and compared to the market. I mean, I can't stress enough that that's vitally important for you, the council, to know whether or not we are making the right adjustments.
Yeah.
How long would one of those studies take?
You know, I
Last
think
week.
we'd have to go through an RFP process, so it may be in front of you within a month and a half. And then we would ask within the RFP.
It's like,
There's
no way.
Well, but it would have to be, to that point, it would have to be before the budget goes into place. Because this problem's not going away.
It's not going away, and that's part of the reason we're proposing to do something to all employees.
Right.
Because of the fact that, we did skip a year of not doing anything.
Right.
And so, I would say probably the best guess would be 4 months.
For us to bring something to them? So
Well, no, before we could complete a
Oh,
study, because you've got to do the RFP, you've got to give them time to turn it in, then they've got to come in, and their process is to dig deep. They have to look at our job descriptions versus, you know, who they're comparing us to job description, in order for them to be delivering something to us that says, yes, you're comparable to City of Midland here, here, and here, or you're short here, or over and to Abilene, or to San Angelo, or who, you know, generally our pick 6 cities hit San Angelo, Abilene, Midland, Lubbock, Amarillo, and Wichita Falls.
Steve, to give you an idea, the last time we did a compensation analysis was probably 2013.
Yes.
That probably took about 9 to 10 months.
I
said so
No.
4 months is a.
That, I mean,
I
I'm
would say
guessing
there's
6
no way-
months, so
yeah.
that's part
Well,
of,
if we can get it done, I'm just thinking about budget time, and we're right there.
I don't think we'll have any sort of analysis by budget time.
I'm just saying, but if we get back in time for January 1,
Yes.
for make some kind of, that's just what I'm thinking.
yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, depending on which options y'all choose, if you do a one-time now, you know, then you could do something, October 1 that we could feed into the budget, the next year. Or, you could say we're gonna do that now, or you do a percentage now, and then maybe we don't do anything at October 1 until if we can get this analysis in by November, December, then you do an adjustment there. I would say that probably these guys stand by. Can I tell them to go sit down there? They're way too close.
Are you nervous?
They already called me Mrs. No.
When Cindy's done, I want to make a comment.
They would say that they need something more now in order to try to get people in the door to apply. That's not to say we don't have that problem in other departments. It's just not seen to that magnitude because of the number of personnel that they have in their departments.
And that problem is, again, I know I keep bringing it up, you guys get tired of hearing it, but it's not, it's going to get worse, not better, we're growing so fast. You know, we've got all this stuff coming, and so their problems are just gonna increase. The number of people required for PD and fire and rescue are gonna just grow. So we've got to get ahead of the curve here. We don't need to be chasing this rabbit. We need to get ahead, in my opinion, need to get ahead of it and make some solid hard plans. I love the study because that's gonna give us a roadmap. We do a master plan for everything else, so we might as well, well, we do. We'll call this a compensation master plan, okay?
That is much.
We will start with the city council, $10 is not enough.
The words of Mark Mata, what I've learned in the city, there is no short of master plans in the city of Odessa.
What's another one?
What's another one?
Council, I would say that what we are suggesting for fire and PD is not what I think they ultimately think they need to have. So this is something to do something for staff today with the understanding that an analysis would give you much more information.
Yeah, where would the money for this come from?
So at the top of your schedule, I mean, one of the things that we talked about in budget was that we always budget sales tax pretty conservatively. That's always done us well, especially in the year 1920 when the pandemic hit. So I'm showing you for the first 6 months in the first column, we've exceeded our budget by $5 million. Compared to last year, we were only at just under $3 million. So I was giving you a comparison to these 6 months to last 6 months. But showing you where that money is available to use, it would require an amendment to our current year budget in order to do that.
And the reason I was asking because what do we spend on, and Chief, you could probably answer this, help it. What do we spend on services out in the county?
So we've done that analysis and
That keeps coming up, doesn't it?
it's significantly more than what we were receiving today.
Okay.
We're just getting like 700,000 a year, right?
Yeah. Service.
So if we were to go back and, we have to redo that interlocal agreement.
Working on
That would be just another surplus.
We just took a major step with what Kathy made a presentation, and that's
That's
why
why
we're
I
trying
was
to cover
nervous.
that.
Yes.
I'm working on it.
So,
And I respect that too, Mark, but, you know, we know the history. I mean, going back, and that's something that we have to do is look at the county, but guys, when we voted on their raise, back in the budget, at that time, I said, you know, we needed to do more. Our employees deserve.
Oh, definitely. So,
And we can't wait on what we do with the county to determine.
Still,
yeah, no.
We just can't.
So I just wanted to see, when we talked about that, I want to see where we're gonna be, you know, at this point.
Right.
Because we didn't, a lot of them weren't confident, you know, wouldn't participate in what was in the information. Okay, so, I get, you need direction. Just,
Do you want to make a comment too?
Real quick, please.
don't oversell it.
You know, I was talking to Mr. Moreau this morning, and we talked about it, and I'll tell you that, you know, as a city manager, because I've never been a city manager, I always advocate for our department. I know Chief Turkey does the same, just this copy, and everybody else does. They come to Mr. Moreau all the time, you know, and say, look, we need this, we need this. And somebody was saying that, you know, we gotta think outside the box, and I think that's where we're at. I mean, it seems for us, you know, and again, this is me outside looking in, as far as the city budget goes, you know, at what point do we just kind of squeeze our own coffers here? At what point do we think outside the box and say, hey, look, we need to do something to go above and beyond? And that takes courage to do that, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
It takes courage to do that. If we don't ever have the courage, we're never gonna have fire stations, new fire stations. If we don't take the courage to do other things, we're not gonna have them. And to me, that's not fair to you as a fire chief. Is Mr. Moreau asked me to think outside the box for my department, I do that. I promise you, I do that. We've had come up with so many ideas on how to operate. And especially when it comes to me and says, Chief, Station 9 is coming around the corner, guess what? He's gonna expect me to have people there, and I'm gonna have those people there. But I'm thinking outside the box. All I'm saying is, when do we, as a community, think outside the box when it comes to funding? Because I don't think just fire deserves a raise here. Everybody deserves a raise, and I truly, truly believe that in the bottom of my heart. And I know that's what Mr. Moreau wants to do.
Right.
But when you're confined to only this amount, you're having to rob Peter to pay Paul. You're just kicking it down the road. Used to hear a council member used to say that all the time. We're just kicking it down the road.
Right.
At what point do we not? At what point do we jump in and say, this is what we're gonna do for our community? Specifically for your workers out there. So, thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you. You're right.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, the interesting thing about this, and I just want to point this out, that I was just showing Mark and I was talking, you know, 4% is gonna cost, between now and the budget time, it's gonna cost, 4% is gonna cost $1.5 million, right, Michael? And we're 5 million above our sales tax. And the question I'd ask the rest of the council, anybody think that sales tax is not gonna meet budget or exceed, based on what's going on now? We're up, what, 30%? I think it's going, so by budget time, we'll have a good handle on what this year's doing. And again, there's so many opportunities out there. I don't think we're negative spending. I think we're not spending our fund balance is good. We haven't had to dip into fund balance anywhere. Even though I think we should for roads personally, but I'm getting beat up, Mark. You gotta be on that side of town. But the 5 million, we got plenty of money to cover the 4%, you know, and to help our people out, because this, I mean, my wife, I mean, you know, we're fortunate enough that even in retirement, we can afford, we want to go buy at the grocery store. She's showing me what the difference of an ear of corn on the cob cost. I mean, it's crazy. I can't believe what I'm seeing in the supermarkets and stuff, and I know our people out there just suffering like crazy. Anyway, I think we have an obligation to do the right thing here, so that's kind of where I am.
Before y'all make a decision, there was some other information I did want to share with y'all. I think Michael told you that, you know, the inflation hits our lower paid people probably harder than anyone else. Just for statistic purposes, I would like you to know that our lowest paid full-time employees at $28,452. A 4% on that is $1,138. So it falls below the proposed one-time of $1,500. The break even for 4% is $37,500. We have 213 full-time employees that fall under that threshold. So this is just information that I think is important for y'all to know. We also gave you another figure for a one-time, and looking at that one, it takes 43,750 times 4%. We hit that figure, 1,750. We have, it bumps it way up, 352 full-time employees that fall under that threshold of 43,750. That's just information to.
So if we went 5%, it wouldn't, it's not that much more money.
But on the percentages, what's happening is that when you're making more, your percentage of your increase is gonna be higher, but the lower rank.
That's the ones I'm worried about.
Well, and what happens, it goes back to when the city was doing the evaluations based on, you know, how many stars, and that was the constant complaint, okay, everybody got across because the budget could handle 3.5. But the lower rank, we're always comparing to the appointees. Well, look how much it is. Well, it's the percentages. When you make more, the percentage is higher. And you know exactly what you're going through. And that's what you're proposing versus the one-time pay right
Well,
now.
that's what a one-time does versus just a strict percentage.
Well,
And that's one reason we gave you a combined option.
Can we do this? Can we go ahead and put this on Tuesday's agenda? Give us time to discuss it, ask questions, talk to Michael, ask you questions. You need to talk to the chiefs. And let's bring this back up to discussion and with direction and see if action occurs on Tuesday with various plans. I would really recommend you talk to Michael more, talk to Cindy, research it, look at it, look at these numbers. Our reason is that this is an impact right now. I think we're all pretty confident that inflation is going to continue to go up. Sales tax will go up. We also have to address the budget impact in coming into next year.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But we got time to do that.
Yes.
Any
And so
percentage you
yeah,
do.
give us till Tuesday to be able to get comfortable and wrap with it. And
Cindy,
that way we're sure.
Mayor, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to see I would like to see, since you mentioned that about the lower paid people, that's where my big concern is. I'd like to see what it would cost, if you don't mind running the number, $1,750 one time to everybody, and 5% across the board.
Well, you could probably add the 4%.
Well, no, you don't, huh? It's not gonna be that high.
No, yeah, well.
No, why would it be? You're saying one time at $1,750, or all full time is $9.9 million. Sure, they. And the 4%,
But you'd be doing the.
4% is $1.5 million.
On the increase.
So are you, when you say.
No, the 4% would be on the current.
Are you talking about solid waste workers? You're talking about everybody?
Everybody.
It's gonna be high.
How many employees do we?
We can always come back.
Well,
We have,
well, I know there's budgeted versus actual.
16 full-time.
Budgeted.
No, we have more than,
Okay, so
yeah,
that's
we
how
have
many
more
we
than
got.
that, but
Okay.
we have 916 full-time.
So you've really got me concerned about the $28,000 person. That's the person I'm concerned
Well,
about.
and that's why we look at a one-time versus a percentage. Anything you do percentage has to be carried on throughout.
I understand.
Going forward. You know, and that just increases every year because then you're adding a cost of living increase on top of that. So, I think the reason that I hesitate about both is the fact that I think we really need the compensation study to tell us where we're at as far as on a position by position basis.
Yeah.
The compensation study, it fixes a lot of things for us because there
Right.
may be employees that are appropriate where they're at today, but we don't know that.
Yeah, I understand.
Mayor, I would suggest that we go ahead and move forward with option 4 until such time as we can do a little more study on these other, you know, I know your studies is not going to be quite as complete as the outside contractor, but it would at least give us a little bit of time to look at it.
Well, Tom, what if we, trying to find a happy medium here, because that, and I agree, when I was in business, I'd much rather do a one-time bonus based on the year's profits as opposed to pay raises, because you're stuck with pay raises forever. I get that, plus the burden, plus everything else, I get that. But I'm trying to help them out because this inflation thing is going so, gas, I mean, they can't even get to work. I mean, I filled my car up yesterday, it was $80 for 18 gallons of gas. So I'm just saying, how about this as a plan maybe? We go a fixed amount and percentage, the 4% or whatever, until the study is finished. And then when the study's finished, we take that into consideration and adjust. Does that make any sense?
To everybody?
Yeah, we could do 4%, do a 1,500 or 17, whatever the number is, that's a one-time deal. Say, just pick a number, 1,500 for everybody, and do 4% until the study's finished.
For everybody again?
Yes, and then when the study's finished, that 4% will get adjusted based on what the study says. If we move somebody up, you know, a percent too far, you have to. I don't know if you can't really just have to look at it.
We can't
You can't take it back. I know, I'm just saying, I think the study will show them behind, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Kind of back to Chief Alvarez's point. At some point, we've got to try to get ahead of the curve. And we're way behind the curve, is my estimation, is what I've heard. So I'm just trying to, unfortunately, again, we're reacting instead of being proactive. We're kind of reacting. So somehow we got to figure out a compromise.
Can you run those numbers, and then we'll pick up this discussion on Tuesday, and then we'll make a definitive agreement. We can come to a consensus on Tuesday. So look at the options of Councilmember Sprouls was proposing option 4 one time, still do the study. Councilmember Thompson is looking for 1,500 with 4%, and then still do the study. So let's look at those comparable numbers.
Right.
Now that is going to be some work. Mine is a little less intrusive.
Sorry.
I mentioned my budget manager's on vacation this week.
There you go.
Mayor, I would like to make one observation,
Yes, sir.
that as Councilman Ortiz, we only get any sort of increase.
From us.
It would be outside of this. We would have to take a different action for Ortiz.
Yes.
We were just talking about that.
There'd be a separate
Yeah.
item for us to discuss that for the time. But right now, what we're concentrating is the ranking 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any more discussion on this item?
It's my
Give
excuse.
me a headache.
It's not a very, it's my
Okay,
excuse.
so seeing that there is no more business before the city council, I have a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Councilman second.
Happens when we get to. Chief, have a good evening. Chief, have a good evening.